You know, when people think of Joe McMoneagle, they usually think of remote viewer 001 for the United States, or the man who worked in the now declassified Stargate Project from the very beginning, or the guy who remote viewed Mars 1,000,000 years ago, or the angel who saved the lives of dozens of missing kids. But after chatting for over 3 hours with him, I realized something I didn't expect. I realized that's not the full story, because behind the remote viewer, there's a man who served his country for decades, worked alongside America's intelligence agencies, and helped shape what we now understand about consciousness itself. But beyond all that, there's something even more interesting. In this conversation, we don't just talk about remote viewing, we talk about Joe the artist, writing 17 screenplays, being a member of SAG-AFTRA and the Writers Guild of America, SRII, the Russian submarine, his earned medals, the Monroe Institute, Joe's values, his past, his NDE, and the experiences that shape the way he sees reality. And somewhere along the way, we explored a question that gave me chills. Are we the aliens? My name is Ben, this is Templar Truths, and this is my conversation with 001, Mr. Joe McMoneagle. Have fun.
Hey, Ben.
Joe, how
Can
are
you
you?
hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine. Can you hear me well?
Yes, I can. Hold on just a minute.
Okay,
I got one thing I got to do here
okay,
before
that's
we
fine.
can start.
No worries. Take your
And
time. I like your
I'll be
fish
right,
behind you.
yeah, I like your background. I'll be right back. I
Yes.
had to seal off the bat cave so it won't be interrupted
That's fine.
and take care of a little biological problem.
Ah,
Too much coffee.
I know. I started with a little bit of tea because coffee
Hmm.
gives me that same effect. So
Where are you located?
I'm in New London, New Hampshire. So we still have
Okay.
plenty of snow here up here. So
I I used to go to New Hampshire when I was in school at Fort Devens in Massachusetts, and I would hitchhike. I'll stick my thumb out, go to Nashville, New Hampshire all the time.
Nashua.
Yeah, they had two all-girl schools there, colleges.
Yeah.
I
Well,
was known to be a person who would climb the outside bricks of the three-story building in a snowstorm
oh my God.
to
How
meet with
old were
some
you?
of them.
How
Pardon?
old were you? Like 20
Uh,
something?
20,
20.
and not quite 21 yet. And those are my crazy hairy days. I got caught by the nuns on the third floor hiding in a phone booth. They had a regular wooden phone booth in one of the floors for the girls. And so
Wow.
that
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 was
got me in some trouble. But there was a raging snowstorm going on outside, and I had nowhere else to go. So the girls opened a window and said, "Come on in." Only it was on the third floor. So I was climbing the brick wall.
and you were warm again.
Yeah. Uh, and,
That's
and
great.
I had
That
a girlfriend there, and I would meet with her. And unfortunately, her father didn't like people in the army.
oh
He
no.
he was a mayor of Meriden, Connecticut,
Oh.
and I went to see her, and I was there maybe 2 hours and talked to her on the phone, and then the sheriff showed up and gave me an escort out of town.
Yeah.
So
Well, they were wrong with you. You're a great guy.
yeah, but it is what it is.
It is what it is. Yeah, it's funny that you said Nashua because I wanted to do the intro for this interview in Nashua. It's
Really?
crazy. At the
Oh,
Capitol building. Do you know the Capitol building
yeah.
in Nashua?
Uh-huh. Yeah.
So I have my oldest daughter. She's gonna come and film it with me. So And
Okay.
I thought that the Nashua, because it's has a really nice golden dome, and
Yeah.
it's kind
Yeah.
of really official like you.
I
And,
like the town. The town was great.
yeah,
They're very supportive because when I traveled, I was always in uniform because I was in training and going to schools, and I had to go to a lot of schools. Mainly, they put you in a lot of schools, I think, because they're running your clearance for the intelligence business. You
right,
can't know anything until you have your clearance, and it
hmm
takes months and months to get that done.
right.
So, uh,
hmm
anyway,
Good, good. So yeah, one of the things I learned about you from many interviews I watch, I watch about 20 or so interviews. Is like you always mention something, and I wanted to ask you about this. And you always mention that you're an artist,
yeah,
and I'm an artist too.
uh
And
huh.
every time somebody that you mention that on your interviews, I feel that they don't ask you too much about that side of you. So I wanted to start asking you about that, and specifically about two things. One is that you mentioned in class that you wrote. I want to ask you first, before I forget, I want to talk to you about your paintings. But before the paintings, I want to ask you about. You said in class, in the remote viewing class, that you wrote 17 screenplays. And I wrote here, that's not casual writing, that's a serious creative effort. That surprised me, and it made me very curious about your artistic side. And so the first question will be, when when did you start writing screenplays? Is that something you
I
started when
started
you were
writing screenplays. Let's see. Um, well, I was writing. All my books are nonfiction. But what
nonfiction?
most people don't know is I have 6 manuscripts that are all fiction,
Right.
and I haven't come up with a good name for the publication of those because you don't want your fiction and your nonfiction mixed together.
Right.
So most people who write nonfiction, if they do publish in fiction, it's usually with a different name. And
Um,
I haven't figured out what to do with that. And most of the books I wrote are somewhat controversial. Um, I wrote a book called Necessary Evil, and
necessary.
it's 600 pages, and
I like.
it's about the Vietnam War and the fact that you only had to be there 2 days, and you knew that that wasn't a place we needed to be. That it was a
Right.
civil war, and we had no business involved in the Civil War. But
Mm,
what made me write the book, the fictional book, is I happened to be recovering from one of my sojourns as an intelligence officer overseas. So I was walking with a cane at the time, and I was sitting in a bar in an airport. I think it was either in Hawaii or Los Angeles. I can't remember which now, but there's a whole bunch of us sitting at the bar, and they came on with a news report on My Lai, the tragedy at My Lai, and we're talking about the lieutenant who was just indiscriminately shooting people. And it was a
mm,
guy on the other end of the bar who said, really loud, he yelled out, if that was me, I never would have done something like that. And it offended me. I got down off my bar stool and I walked down to the end and I tapped him on the shoulder. And when he looked at me, I said, you don't have a clue what you do or not do. I said, you can't judge a soldier in the heat of battle because you have no idea what the cause is. And you should never judge that way. It has to be done formally in a court of law or something where there's witnesses and the reasons come out. Then I walked back to I thought he was going to come off the bar stool and hit me, but he saw my cane and changed his mind, I guess. So I went back to my bar stool and he left. So, but I wrote the book in order to show people how good, honest young kids want to serve their country. They go in the military, they learn everything they're supposed to learn. They go overseas, they get pushed into a war they shouldn't even be in. And it changes you dramatically, and you have no idea what the experience has done to that person or why they do things afterwards. And the bad thing is the military, they train you to do a lot of things in battle, but they don't untrain you when you're leaving the military.
Right.
So you have to adjust on your own, and it's unfair because a lot of young people are not, they didn't even reach maturity till age 23, 25, somewhere in there.
Right.
And they've been twisted all up with the war and combat.
Right.
And it's unfair to judge them. And it pigeonholes them and causes more problems later. So it's kind of an aggravation. So the way I wrote the book is you, as a reader, identify, by the time you're halfway through the book, you're identifying with the protagonist, the young man. And at some point past the halfway point, he's indiscriminately just killing people. And you're in an emotional state by then where you're going, get some, and you suddenly realize you're rooting for a cold-blooded killer.
Right.
And that's usually when when the editors throw my manuscript out the window. And so I have like 60 denials on publication for it. And but every denial I got came with a single-space type letter apologizing for never having been involved in the Vietnam War. And it's like, no, I didn't write it for that reason. I wrote it so people would understand that war changes people. But I never got it published. But the screenplays, everybody reads the books and then they say, oh, that would be a good movie. So I started writing screenplays. But screenplays are hard to write. There's no real school for them.
Right.
So I went to a wedding in Connecticut and sat at, they have everybody sitting at specific tables. And so I was sitting at this table with 4 different strangers. And one of them was a very well-known screenplay writer. And I said, oh, I always wanted to do that. So he says, well, write one and send it to me. So I did. And it came back marked up all in red. So I redid it, sent it, and it came back with a little less red. And over 2 years, that one screenplay got passed back and forth, rewritten many, many times. And I finally got it back with a big OK on it and an exclamation point. And that's when I took off writing screenplays. So I sold one.
Okay.
That was show number 16 on Dead Zone. And that's my claim to fame. But the rest haven't been sold to anybody. But there are people reading them right now, so you never know.
And do you have, are they all your screenplays like the same theme, or are they different themes? Do they have series
They're all different themes.
different themes?
I have a couple Stephen King type screenplays, with the horror and the craziness, and I think there's even a beheading in one of them. But then I have a number that are geared towards conflict, but across the ages, like the Crusades and a couple other areas in time back around the 1500s. And then I have a couple on Asia, things going on in Asia, and sort of with a criminal type theme to them. And I actually have a couple love stories. I have one called Angeline. It's about a man who goes away to the Crusades, and while he's at the Crusades, he loses his girl because everybody thinks he's dead. So when he comes back, of course, he's lost everything. And he's just trying to make his way in life when he finds out that she's still alive, and they bump into each other and they fall in love again. But it's at an advanced age, like an elderly age.
Mm-hmm.
And the husband, who is elderly as well to her, is the
Mm-hmm.
guy that stole all his property while he was gone.
Mm-hmm.
So they have a son. He's in his mid-20s, and the father encourages the son to pick a fight to get rid of this guy. And that's all I'm going to say about it, because
Okay.
it gets really interesting later.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, anyway,
And did you
he's an
think
old
about?
fart.
No, that's fine. No, the Vietnam one is interesting. My father-in-law went to Vietnam, and it's one of those guys who doesn't like to talk about Vietnam. So now he's having all kinds of trouble because he was exposed to agent. What is
Agent
it called?
Orange. Yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah.
So now he's 86, and
Hmm.
he has all kinds of trouble,
Oh yeah.
unfortunately.
I
And
I was too. I was I was in radio recon, so I spent a
oh,
lot of time with a small team in the jungle, and we got our water from under the very plants that they were spraying.
oh
And
wow,
so you develop this huge amount of that herbicide in your system. It's stored in the liver.
right.
And but I had a lucky thing happen. I When I was in northern Thailand and working in some areas of uh, an area we weren't supposed to ever be in, Laos.
Hmm.
I We had a doctor. He's a CIA doctor, and his cure for everything was 1,000 units of penicillin. Didn't matter if you had a cold or you were dying, you got 1,000 units
Check
of
it.
penicillin. And so four of us came down with the flu, and we all got our 1,000 units of penicillin, and then we all got terribly ill. And
Oh
it
no.
turned out he had not sterilized the needle. It takes a
Oh.
big, really big needle
Hmm.
to shoot you up with the penicillin, because it's like a syrupy kind of thing. And so we all got sent to the Tropical Disease Center in Bangkok, and we had Hep B. And back then it was a
Oh,
death sentence. There was no cure.
right. Right.
And so two of the guys asked to be sent to hospitals closest to their families. So they went back to the States, and they both died. And
Oh.
I and a Special Forces staff sergeant, we said, we're not going anywhere. Fix up a room. And they said, well, this is a research center. We can't, this isn't a regular hospital. And
Hmm.
we told them, well, fix up a room because we're not going anywhere. And they asked us why we wanted to be there. And we said, because you can use an experimental drug here
Yeah.
and you can't do it in the States.
Right.
And so they put us in a room, and over 6 or 7 months, we were getting an experimental drug. I can't remember the exact name they were calling it, but it was the experimental part of it was referred to as 741 X-ray, and it was being flown in from somewhere, I think Finland or something.
Hmm. Hmm.
And I lost 80% of my liver, which
Wow.
grows back. It took 2.5 years for it to grow back, but I survived, and it's now known as interferon, which is a cure for Hep B. But
Okay.
back then, nobody knew that.
Hmm.
So the the good part of this, if you could call it a good part,
Yeah.
is the 80% of my liver I lost had most of the Agent Orange in it. So
Oh, great. That's
it's an
great.
enzyme. It's stored in the liver. So all the people I worked with in overseas in the war are all dead now, and
Right.
I'm still alive because of the fact that I had hepatitis B.
Right. Wow. Wow.
So, somebody's up there taking care of me. I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh,
That's a
but
really good story for one of your screenplays, actually.
yeah, right, right. Uh-huh.
Yeah. And did
No, I
you?
want to forget all that.
Yeah. Okay.
Seven
Okay.
months.
And when the screenplays you wrote them with the idea to become a play or a movie, or you just wrote them and
Yeah,
whatever.
both, both.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, And you have most people have to understand that when a screenplay is bought for production of some kind, the people who buy it reserve the right to change it, alter it, add to
Right.
it, detract
Right.
from it. And the lead actors, if they're really well known, they will have some say in it as well, because
Right.
they have to portray the protagonist and
Right.
the other parts. So it's an interesting thing. Now I have been paid for screenplay writing,
Hmm.
even though I didn't sell a screenplay, because it turns out my action scenes are very realistic,
Right.
where many screenplay writers have never seen any action, so they don't know what goes on.
Right.
And so I've been hired and paid by some of them on the side to write their combat scenes and things, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
But you know,
Yeah. No, I know. I made 3 movies as a director, and the last movie I had to change the script a little bit just because of production cost.
uh-huh, yeah,
So it was a scene with 2 cops and a police officer.
uh-huh,
I'm sorry, 2 cops in a police car, and
right.
I couldn't really pay for the police car, so I had
Okay.
to I had to change it and make the dialogue of the 2 cops into 1 cop, and he was standing at a park. And it's a change I made because I didn't have the money to produce that kind of scene. But it was a short movie, a long short movie. It's a 26 minutes short. But
was I was in one of those movies. It was called Moving On, and the storyline was man goes away on a long vacation and he comes home, and at the end of the sidewalk to his front door, his whole house is missing. Somebody came in and stole the entire house with all its contents while he was away,
well,
and so he travels around the uh, the area in the country looking for parts of his house. And he finds most of it,
oh
the
wow.
bits and pieces of it, in flea markets. So we shot the whole thing over about a 3.5 month period, scene by scene, and over on the beach. And of course, none of it was licensed. And so I remember we were shooting one scene and it involved cops, and we had off-duty policemen, and they were coming up on a house where this guy was preparing to steal another house, and it was in, of course, the neighborhood that uh, the guys making the film lived in. And right in the middle of that scene, the off-duty police had their guns out. We made sure they were cleared and everything, but right at that moment, sirens and a whole bunch of police cars came in, and everybody
Wow.
had to get down on the ground. And
Oh, wow.
they thought we were actually criminals or something. It was really funny. Uh,
So what
anyway,
were you doing? What were you doing on the set? Were you one of the
well,
actors, or were you just?
yeah, I was an actor. I was an ex-military guy in the flea market,
Oh.
uh, illegally selling guns under the table. I was doing other things, but if you said the right phrase to me, I could like pass you a gun under the table. And the protagonist, the good guy who's looking for his house, backs into my table and spills everything on the ground. And so I start chasing him, and I chase him all through this flea market. And there's a scene where he runs down this small, narrow area between the stalls. And as I get there, I'm running as hard as he is. Two guys bring a screen door out, and I run through the screen door.
Mhm.
But I finally catch him, and I spin him around, and just as I'm getting ready to hit him, this woman in one of the stalls hits me in the back of the head with a baseball bat, and I go down. That's my whole. That's my whole thing, and
I'll say, yeah,
it
that's
was
good.
fun. It
Oh
was
yeah,
fun.
it is fun. It is fun. Yeah, I love movie making. I made 3 films as a director, and I acted in about 30 movies, but
Uh-huh.
nothing major, like nothing Hollywood.
Oh, it's yeah, but that's how movies are made.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah, it's
they
fun.
you got to have the crowd, and you have to have the background scenes, and you have to have all the intimacy of like what really goes on in the world. So
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. I love it because I feel that you're creating something that is not real, but it's real when you're creating it. You know,
right,
it's the
exactly.
reality of creating the thing.
Hmm.
So that's great. And I wanted to ask you if you ever thought about doing some of your scenes on your screenplays with AI, like even just creating a trailer for some of your screenplays, or that's something you never thought about using?
And being right up front about it, I've used AI to
Okay.
do searches on information that I don't have.
Okay.
It's very effective for that. You know, you can go through 58,000 sources in a matter of a minute, and then give you the core, kind of the core dump of information. You can't trust AI though, because it depends on how you're interacting with it. If somebody is interacting with an AI system and they're bending the truth or they're lying, it will feed back the same thing.
Right.
And so I don't support, because I'm a full member of SAG and AFTRA,
Oh,
Screen Actors Guild, and the American Federation of Television and Radio. I don't support AI, because
right.
it will, the impact it will have is just unnecessary.
Right.
Um, you know, AI is good for creating scenes, background stuff, where you want a more natural look to, how the computer is producing something you can't normally shoot, like an explosion or a street scene with
Right.
an accident or some car going out of control. That kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But in terms of imitating a human, it's too perfect. It spoils that sort of
Imperfect.
spontaneity that comes out in the acting.
Right. The
Uh,
humanity, the
yeah,
imperfections,
the emotion and whatnot.
yeah, the charm or the unique signature of a
Exactly,
soul, really, because
exactly.
we all have different souls, and that shows through the performance, and that AI can really cannot
Yeah,
really do that, I mean, can try to imitate it, but do it consistently. I don't think it can.
I don't either. You see flaws in it, then that's actually how you can tell if something's AI on the internet,
Right,
and
right.
a lot of it's starting to show up already.
Yeah, I have one of my buddies. He's a director, and he in his latest movie he used some AI for some car chasing explosion.
Hmm.
And he was telling me that it was a lot easier to do that kind of stuff with the AI as a tool instead of doing it with computer animation, which will take
Yeah,
a lot of money and a lot of time. So, it's a tool that it sometimes can help
yeah,
with effects, sound effects or visual effects. But in terms of the human performance, the soul is not there. So,
exactly. Yeah, it doesn't. I think you can see it in the eyes and the lips, but then I'm taught to study people as an intelligence officer, and
right,
it's easy for me. I don't know about other people, but you
right,
know, it just doesn't have the life to it that it should have.
right. And also the twist, because as an actor, you can do a performance and do an interpretation of the character that AI wouldn't do just because it's not normal. and
Exactly.
that and that interpretation of the role could be um could make the whole performance, you know. So, for example, there's an opening scene in the movie Inglorious Bastards, and the guy won the Oscar for that. I don't remember if he won an Oscar for that movie or he was nominated at least. And he's portraying a Nazi officer, and he said that in his mind he was doing the right thing, you know. And that's the actor's interpretation of the script, which AI wouldn't make that interpretation. It was no
Exactly.
Nazi bad, right?
Yeah.
So it's
Yeah.
very interesting.
Yeah. Good actors have a lot of mobility in that. I think it's part of what gives them a very hard time at overtime. You know, you play a
Overtime.
bad guy 1 minute, you play a good guy the next. After your 15th or 20th role, you forget who you are.
Right.
You know,
Right.
it's like an undercover guy in the FBI or the police department. If you're playing a bad criminal, let's say in New Jersey, and you have that patois down, you know, the right sound to the I don't know, the right kind of voice for it.
Right.
And you do that for too long, you carry it into your life,
Right.
I've been with people like that, you know, undercover people who come out of undercover after 3 or 4 years, and they for them to shake that
Hmm.
mask is almost impossible.
Right. Right.
They slip back into it and out of it very, very comfortably.
Yeah, you know, you start becoming safe with playing that role, so it
Yeah,
becomes, you know, you feel unsafe when you get off
right,
that mask.
exactly.
And do you know if typically undercover people, do they actually take acting classes or not
No,
really?
no, I don't. I've never met one that did.
Mhm.
Uh, Usually the people that do undercover are the guys who have such a long time on the street that they have no problem imitating
Right.
someone.
Hmm.
The trick is, I think, to not be totally enmeshed initially, to kind of work your way in deeper and deeper. And as you're doing that, you become familiar with the role and in the play of it.
Right.
Uh, but you know, I would never guarantee somebody undercover is going to survive,
Right.
because
Right.
there are mistakes that can be made. You won't even know you're making them.
Right. Right. And they may even the other people may have their own undercover people trying to
Exactly.
catch you too. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I always tell people that about remote viewing. They want to
Mm.
go out and help families find the missing uncle or the missing daughter, and that's great, except they may be working with a family member, let's say looking for a young child, and the uncle is escorting them everywhere to make sure that the family agrees, and suddenly they find themselves behind a trailer where they're pretty sure that the body is probably under that trailer, and they have no idea that the uncle standing behind them with a shovel in his hands is the guy
Mm.
who put it there,
Oh,
you
right,
know.
right. Hmm. Right. Yeah.
So it's things people don't think about that makes it very dangerous for them.
Yeah.
Uh, the fact that a good person could have done it, you know, someone you believe is a good person could have
Right.
done it.
And that's where the ego could get on your way
Oh yeah,
and change your perception of the target.
right,
Um,
exactly.
yeah,
Yeah.
it was amazing to see. I was amazing for me to do remote viewing and to see it, to see other people doing it in front of me.
Mhm.
It was just
Yeah.
absolutely incredible, incredible. But want to get going with the artistic side of Joe for a little bit,
Uh-huh.
if you're up to it. And I wanted to kind of ask you, I don't want to. I don't want to forget about talking about your pictures, but I wanted to ask you that you mentioned in several interviews that you grew up in a tough neighborhood of Miami.
Exactly.
So, and I was wondering if those artistic activities as a kid, if it was something that you did after school, if that's something you did also to stay out of trouble in that tough neighborhood, and if so, what were those first artistic things you did as a kid?
Well, the big deal was first my initial experience with art and that sort of drawing and sketching and stuff I got from my father. My father never finished eighth grade. He had polio when he was a kid, and his father left him and his mother and his brother and sister, and so he felt he would, since he was the oldest, he had to go out and work to help support the family. So he took his braces off his legs and threw them in the trash and hid the fact that he had polio because he knew people wouldn't hire him otherwise. And he went out and he started working hard when he was about 14, 15 years old.
Mhm.
By the time he was 20, he was a smoking alcoholic, put it bluntly.
Wow.
And so I grew up with this alcoholic. Well, because he had polio, one leg was shorter than the other by about 2 inches.
Mhm.
So he walked around on that foot on the pad of the front, the ball of the foot.
Mhm.
And he worked in a warehouse on concrete floors his whole life, maybe 40 years. And he developed a callus that went all the way to the bone in his right foot.
Oof.
So I realized when I got a little older that the reason he drank so much, mostly beer, had to do with the fact he was in excruciating pain
Right.
and poor. And so he couldn't go to the hospital or see a doctor to get it fixed. So he just lived with it and drank himself to sleep every night. Now, when I realized that, it made me angry, in a sense. So I started working when I was really young. I think my first job I had was when I was 14 and going on 15, and was sweeping a warehouse every day, every afternoon after school. And I think my first paycheck was $14 for a week of work. And I gave it all to my mother.
Oh,
So
no.
they fought a lot. My mother had an IQ of probably 150 and or extremely north of that. So she
Mhm.
was brilliant, but they were passionately in love. And because we were poor, there was always conflict. So they were always arguing over money and stuff. Um, but I really cared about my parents, and I had four younger sisters, so I had to take care of them.
Mhm.
And when I was 14, this is a story I never tell anybody, by the way.
Okay.
When I was 14, I was arrested or picked up by police for stealing hubcaps. Back then, there were no fancy wheels; there were just hubcaps, fancy hubcaps. So I got caught taking hubcaps off an unmarked car, and after I put them back, I rode around all night in the back seat of this car, and they talked about how I was going to get put into juvie hall and I'd never get out of prison. And I mean, they scared the hell out of me all night long, talking all this stuff. And so in the end, in the morning, the one officer said, uh, he said, "I'll tell you what, I'm going to make a deal with you." He said, I can either take you in and book you and you'll never see daylight again, or you can cut my grass on Saturday. So I said, "Of course I'll cut your
That's a
grass."
good deal.
And I don't think he believed I'd show up, but I did. And when I got to where he lived, it certainly wasn't my neighborhood. He actually had three garages
Oh, wow.
attached to his house. I had never seen a real garage in my whole life. We didn't have carports, we would throw canvas over our cars or whatever at night. But um all three doors were up, and there was this big mat in the center one, and a whole bunch of kids in there doing martial arts. And I did not know he was a retired Marine, and he was an all karate champion out of Okinawa.
Oh
And
wow.
I eventually saw the film where he took his championship. He took it with a broken neck. He had a bone broken in his neck. Extremely dangerous. But he let me cut his grass for about 2 months before I was allowed to go into the dojo. But he turned me around completely. I started doing full contact judo and jiu-jitsu when I was 14 and a half, 15. And I continued up till about 18 months ago. I mean, my whole life I've been doing that. So it has a decisive effect on remote viewing, because that's how I approach remote viewing. I look at it as a martial art of the mind.
Right.
It's something you can never stop doing if you want to improve the skill. You keep hammering away on it. It's like any other martial art. And so it turns out it's really had an effect on me, introducing me to martial art. Made all the difference in the world, and it's kept me alive in a couple circumstances. So I blame him for my being okay.
That's a great thing. And 18 months ago, you were doing jiu-jitsu or judo?
Both.
Both.
My sensei, my sensei was 88 years old when he died, and his name was Roger. He was an electrician by trade, and he worked on the plateau in Alaska where they do all the drilling for 36 years, and taught it there. And so when he came back to the States, he settled in Virginia because of the weather. He liked the weather. And I bumped into him, and we started working out together on a mat. He had a small dojo in his house. And I don't think he had more than 3 students, but he did it because he liked training people, I think. But he was a very conscientious individual, and I really liked him a lot. And when I say up to 18 months ago, that's when he and I decided. We both hit the mat at the same time together. We would compete with one another on the mat for an exercise, and we both hit the mat one morning, and we just laid there and looked at each other and said, this is stupid. So we stopped working out. We did kata together, but that was all. and then he died, and it was such a great person. But,
Nice. That's a
yeah.
good. That's a good story and good friendship,
Yeah.
especially.
Yeah.
So Joe, tell me a little bit about your paintings. That's another thing during the class. You mentioned that you have like 1,000 paintings or something like that.
No, it's not 1,000, but I do sketches and paintings a lot. And usually what I do when I finish them, somebody will go, "Oh, that's really cool," and I'll just give it to them.
Oh, okay.
I don't do any of my artwork as a profession, although I could. When I was when I was in my senior year of high school, I was working for an architectural firm in Miami on my part time, and I did all the printing of the statements and lettering on the architectural plans that their employees did. They hated doing the lettering, so I'd go in there after school and letter all the stuff that they hadn't lettered, and made very good money doing it.
Right.
And in fact, they thought I would join that architectural firm when I got out of school, and I fooled them. I went in the Army instead. But I also had straight A's in the drawing class I had. I had a drawing class in high school, and I drew all the plans for the school. I don't know what to call it, playhouse, or the place where the football team gets their equipment on, and the baseball players get all their equipment out of storage, and it's kind of like a support building for high school athletics. I wanted to do a plan for a big basketball auditorium, but they didn't have the money for that, so somebody else wanted it. So I've always been interested in that. The reason why, basically, is when I was very, very young, my father was a great artist, even though he never got finished with his school. When I was about 3, he would always put me in my high chair, and it had a tray in the front. And he'd take a toy, and he would take like a little toy airplane or a car or whatever, and he put it on a shelf, and he put the paper in front of me, and he'd sketch it with a pencil.
Oh,
Okay. And then he put a
that's a
fresh piece of paper in
good tip.
and hand me a crayon, and he'd point to the toy and walk out of the room. And I would try to draw the toy.
Wow.
Now, obviously, I was not real good when I started.
Well, yeah, right.
But I was encouraged so much by him. And he knew that I had that skill, and he wanted me to keep polishing it. And so I did. Everywhere I went, I'd find some reason to sketch it or make some kind of an artistic event. But I do it because it's a great way to relax, because my mind is just working on that. My real claim to fame, though, is sculpture.
Sculpture. Okay.
Yeah, I always want to be a good sculptor, and I didn't know how. And so when I hit about my 70th birthday, I bumped into a guy who just retired. He was the head sculptor for the Cochrane Museum in Washington, D.C., and he just retired. And he wanted to start a small studio in my town out in the country, Central Virginia, Nellis Ford. And he didn't have enough money to rent the room. So I said, I'll share it with you if you teach me. So I spent 6 years sharing a studio with him.
Wow.
And I learned a hell of a lot from him. And he came in one morning, and he looked around, and he looked at what I was working on, and he said, "Get out." I said, "What?" He said, "Pack up and get out."
Oh, no.
I said, "What'd I do?" And he said, "You're starting to look too much like me." So I left the studio and brought all my stuff home. So I still do sculpting, and the reason I like sculpture, it's really hard to do a figure in clay or plastique or whatever that actually delivers the emotion of what it is that person is. It's like most people think, oh, well, you get these, you have these get-togethers where you have a live model, and that helps you. Well, it does, but not when they're all perfect. Everybody goes to these places where they always have a perfect model, the muscular male, the thin female, beautiful female. No. One of the best works I ever did was a woman who was 8 months pregnant. And when the class was done, there were about 5 of us. When the class was done, she went around and actually looked at all the statues that people had done. And she said, "Wow, I love yours." And I said, "Why?" She said, "Because when I look at it, I can feel motherhood." And so I gave it to her. I just handed it to her. It was clay. And I said, "You got to be careful with it because it's clay."
Did you make like a hand holding the belly, kind of like
Actually,
that?
both hands under the belly, folded
Okay.
under the belly. And very relaxed look with their head kind of tilted to one side with a smile.
Mhm.
And it just, when you saw it, it just made you think this is someone very comfortable with the idea of making a human. And,
Mhm.
and a lot of people liked it. And
Right.
so, you know, I like to try to capture the emotion of the
Right.
thing. But you know, it takes time,
Right.
and my time is uh, very special to me.
Yeah.
And I'm busy all the time with
Right.
some outside problem. So,
Right. Right.
you know, you do what you can.
That's right.
But
Well, that's
you could see behind me, this is all my stuff. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 glass display cases of just bits and things I picked up all over the world.
mm-hmm.
And I have a little corner that's got all my African stuff, mask and that sort of thing. And I even have a glass case. It's got all the statues of elephants that I fell in love with. That's, you know, I surround myself with it
With
because it
art.
makes me feel good.
Right.
Uh,
And do you think that that artistic and that creativity that you have because you're an artist, you think that that gives you a little edge when you're doing remote viewing?
oh, absolutely.
Yep.
Absolutely, it does. That and the fact that I've been to about 80 countries in my life and a lot of states and met a lot of people in a lot of different cultures. It
hmm
it it opens the mind to a lot of things. And in fact, they've in the science side of the remote viewing, they started making an assumption that because I've been exposed to so much in my life that probably helps me deliver the information. I don't think that's true. I
hmm
think the part that's true is the fact that when I look at something, I don't look at it like a lot of people look at it. I look at it as being introduced to something new about life and people and places that I just need to know.
Right.
And you know, in my mind, all humans are different, and
Yeah.
they're all special, and they're all
Unique.
important. And because in my reality, there is no space or time, and every human being is living in their own construct, their own world, and
hmm
it's always a little bit different from any other human
Right.
because of all the variances in our lifetime from birth.
hmm
We're all raised differently. We all have different religions, different reactions, interactions with our relatives, different
Right.
schools, different beliefs, different. I mean, everything's different,
Right.
and we forget that. We make assumptions when we're sitting in a room with 30 other people.
Mm.
We jump to the feeling that, oh well, everybody's seeing the same thing, hearing the same thing, feeling the same way. No,
Right.
never, never.
You never know. You never know.
Yeah, that's right.
And all that exposure to all those cultures during your life, is that something that uh, gives you some humbleness? And do you think that that also helps you with taming your ego when you're doing remote viewing?
Oh man, I wish it did. I've been a remote viewer now for 48 years, and I got to tell you, the same battle I started with my ego is the same battle I keep fighting every day. It's the ego. You see, the ego is designed also for survival. If you didn't have an ego, you wouldn't
Wake
fight
up
for
in the
that
morning.
space that you occupy in
Right.
life. That everything about you is organized around the ego, who tries to keep you moving in a forward direction, keep you from being hungry, keep you warm and in a house, and you know, all these things that you by necessity must have. So the ego is a good thing. The problem with the ego, though, is the ego thinks it knows everything and wants to be in charge. And so is up until when the ego's comfortable with understanding what's going on, it will usually leave you pretty much alone. In other words, you want to go out and do something new and make a lot of mistakes. The ego is fine with going, go ahead, go do that. and it just kind of sits in the corner. But
Right.
it's the reason why in remote viewing, usually people, when they first start doing remote viewing, are very good at it
Mm.
because the ego says, I don't know what's going on here. I'm going to back out. I'm just going to watch. Okay.
Right. Right.
So the person with no ego involvement at all is nailing the target. I mean, just literally in the target. And then the ego suddenly goes, now I know what's happening. Okay, I'm in charge. Let me tell you
Right.
how to do this. And as soon as that happens, everything goes to hell.
Right. Right. Right.
And if people think it didn't happen to me, they're wrong. I came from Stanford research where I had one of the best results for 6 targets in history. In fact, it's still the standing record there.
Right.
I came back to the Stargate program and 24 straight failures because I knew I was a great psychic.
Ah.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
No, I wanted to. That's one of the questions I have in written. But since you're talking about that, all the greats, Michael Jordan, Tiger Woods, they all miss their targets sometimes, right? As they do their craft. And I was watching an interview, one of the interviews where you mentioned, and I think that I'm grateful that you missed your target on that one because you did remote view your own death, right?
Uh, oh,
But
that,
you were off with the year, right?
what actually happened? My first trip to Southeast Asia to Vietnam, we were flown in on a C-130, and as I was coming down the ramp of the C-130, when my foot hit the tarmac, the pavement, I had a flash, and I turned to the guy behind me and I said, "I'm not going home." And he said, "What do you mean?" I said, "I'm going to die here."
Hmm.
And he said, "How do you know?" And I said, "Because I just saw myself enveloped in a flash of white light. And so it's either a mortar round or a heavy artillery round, H&E, IED. It's something like that. And I know I will die here." And then he started backing away from me. It's like, okay. but, but, I told a number of people this. And then I had another experience, maybe in the 8th month, where I saw myself leaving on an airplane that was painted yellow. And I was like, oh, hell, there's no such thing as a yellow airplane jet.
Banana.
And
Purple.
besides, banana jet. And besides, we go in and out of here on military planes that are green and camouflage. And so I just wrote it off as stupidity. But when I eventually did leave, it was a brand new it's a brand new aircraft system. They were contracted by the government to fly us in and out, and it's called Braniff. And
Mm.
all the Braniff planes were painted with pastel colors. And the one I got flown home on, or at least to San Francisco, was called the canary bird. It had a
Oh.
little bird painted on the side, and it was bright yellow. So, but I didn't die, and I couldn't figure that out. So
Mhm.
that was in 67, 68.
Mhm.
And then in 1970 in Europe, where I had one of the most profound near-death experiences I ever had,
Mhm.
um, I was actually clinically dead.
At the bar,
I
is
was
that the one?
enveloped in a white light.
Oh.
And I knew immediately that I was dying, because that was exactly the sensation I had when I got off the plane in Vietnam.
Mm.
So there's a lot of times when I said, I know I'm going to die. The fact of the matter is that we all are going to die.
Right.
Believe it or not,
Yeah.
there's a
Right.
lot of people who don't want to see that, but
I know.
eventually it's going to happen, and it's okay.
Yeah.
I've had 3 near death experiences where I honestly was, I had the belief that I was dead or dying,
Hmm.
and each one I got a little bit more information from. So I've lost any fear I have about dying. I don't have any fear about it. I just
Hmm.
want to make it a good life and a good death. You know,
Right.
if
Right.
I got to
Right.
go out, I'm going to go out doing something very profound, but
Right.
or not waking up, one or the other.
Right.
But
Yeah.
it's not a big deal for me, and it is for so many, and I understand that. Um,
Right. Right.
uh,
We
but
come
I've had
back
a great life, so whenever is fine.
whenever it's fine. It's your turn. Joe, I have a few questions about your values. So
Ah,
let's see.
yeah.
Let's see what you say about these questions. I think they're fun questions. But the first one is, what's a good friend to you, and what's your minimal expectations of them?
Minimal expectations would be that they don't lie to me.
Hmm.
Uh, that would be one, and it could be over the smallest thing, but
Right.
it doesn't matter as long as they're truthful. I like someone who speaks the truth, and secondly would
Me too.
be they don't have to cater to me in any way, shape, or form.
Hmm.
I would just like to know if I said, "Look, I need some help with this," I would get it because I would give it. Okay.
Right.
And I think all my very good friends know that. And that's why they're my very good friends. What, who they are, how much money they make, what they represent, the fact that they may believe things or would vote in a way that I wouldn't has no bearing at all. I appreciate all human beings are different,
Right.
and I really have a respect for who they are when they stand alone in their beliefs. I don't have any problem with that.
Hmm.
I think where I have a problem is where someone would deny me the right to be that way.
Right. Right.
So, politically right now in America, there's a huge issue that centers around Republican, Democrat, president. Uh, It, it, it's it's so much crap going on, and everybody goes, "Oh, those are MAGA people." If you're a Democrat, it's like the MAGA people. Well, I know a lot of people. I know people that aren't MAGA. I know people that are. I know people that are Democrat. I know people that are Republican.
Right.
And my opinion is that we're all after the same thing. We want to see the elimination of the corruption in the government
Right.
on both sides.
That's right.
We want to see the Congress doing their job. We are tired of being conned continually over and over
Right.
and being ignored. The huge majority of the American people are good people, and they're mostly poorer than most.
Right.
And there should be a reason for that. But the only reason is they pay the taxes to carry the entire government, the entire country. The
Hmm.
people who have incredible wealth, and I'm talking someone who could start tomorrow spending crazily, buying everything they see, and when they died 3 decades later, they would still have made more money than they could spend.
Right.
That's to not tax them
Right.
is outrageous. I mean, it's
True. Yes.
outrageous. because it's the little guys who have
I know.
provided them the security, safety, and promise that
I
has
know.
allowed them to make that kind of money. And to not tax them is like insanity.
Crazy. Yeah, it just makes no sense. It just
No,
makes
no, makes no sense at all. And understand, I don't hate them because they've got a lot of money.
Yeah, no, no, of
I
course.
I just expect them to carry the same load I'm carrying or any other human being in America.
Right.
And so I have no distaste for a MAGA person. I understand that. I know it's unfair. They will vote for anybody who appears that they would walk in there and trash the system because the system isn't helping them. It isn't working for them. The idea here is most Americans do not understand the fact that a government is created by the people to support the people. It
Right.
doesn't matter if a person's an independent, Republican, Democrat. If they're medically insane, who cares?
Right.
It's the people create the very government
Mhm.
that should care for them and give them what they need or want. You don't get it for free, though. You get taxed for it.
Right.
But you should get taxed at a percentage that respects how much money you need to live on.
Yeah. Or how much money you make, too.
Right, exactly. I mean, somebody who has no education, who's out there making minimum wage. What's minimum wage now? $12 maybe. I
Right.
don't even
12,
know
13.
anymore. That's not enough to live on.
No.
25 or $30 an hour. That's enough to survive on.
Right.
Do you think that'll ever happen? Hell no.
No. I
It's
know.
it's like, no, it should. The government should dictate that it should because they're supposed to represent everybody. Certainly people that don't want to pay it make enough to do that,
Right.
but they won't unless somebody dictates they should.
Unless somebody takes, yeah, because it will be nice if the rich people will say, no, I am going to pay proportionally to how much money I make, but they won't. So they need
Right.
somebody
They need
who will
somebody to
make them.
dictate it. Now I know a lot of people who are very wealthy who every day take care of something that they didn't have to do. I mean,
Right.
they support whole hospitals, museums,
Right.
educational facilities. I mean, there are a lot of very wealthy people in America that do their share.
Right.
But I'm talking about that 1.5% at the very top. No,
Right.
no,
Exactly.
they don't even walk on the sidewalk with us anymore. They fly from hilltop to hilltop. It's just it's a general thing that when you tax, you should spend the tax wisely. They don't do that. They voluntarily order up their own salaries in Congress.
Right.
They when they serve, they then retire. They get money. I mean, whoever retires at like 6 years, I'll forget it. I mean, the idea I think behind a democracy is that you would want to serve to do your part, serve for a couple seasons, and then go home.
Right.
You know,
Right.
go back to whatever you do, and there's just a lot of things that aren't right about it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the American people that used to be, uh, middle of the pack, the true supporters of the entire federal government. Um, don't exist anymore. Everybody's fighting to stay alive, and it's the richest country on the planet. Our,
Right.
our our GDP would encompass half the countries in the world,
Mm-hmm.
and yet you can go to a small country. You go to Stockholm as an example. How many millions of people do they have? Not many, but you will never see a pothole. Every single bridge is perfect, and they got a lot of bridges. All the paving's perfect. Everything's in good repair. And they pay a very high tax, but they have free medical, free education, free this, free that. Who cares how much money you get left when everything's paid for? You
Right.
know, it's just, I don't know. We have
Not
it
very
sort of
fair.
backwards. Less government's better. I would even go along with that. Less government's better. If there were more than two parties
Right.
arguing over who gets the most.
Yeah. Yeah.
Definitely. A good government's built on compromise.
Hmm.
Simple as that. And we should never have anybody homeless ever.
No, I
That
know. I
that's
know.
crazy. I mean,
How many veterans are also homeless, and
yeah.
that's very
But
sad.
how many ads do you see on TV? Donate to us. We take care of veterans. You know,
Right.
I'm 100% disabled veteran, and I will tell you, in my entire lifetime, and I'm over 80, I've never got a single visit or phone call from anybody saying, "What do you need?"
Right.
No one.
Wow.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
So where's all that money going?
Yeah, I know. I know. Same thing with my father-in-law. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
pretty sad.
Yeah. The Agent Orange, the veterans themselves, we had to fight 30 years to get that covered by the Veterans Administration.
Right.
And they knew about it. Uh, Problem is, it would have broken the government, just that. And so we're realists too. We understand that when you have 4.5 million people exposed to it, it's hard to take care of 4.5 million people. But
Yeah,
you can at least take care of the ones who need it the most,
that's right.
you know.
No, I agree.
And they don't do that. They just make excuses until it gets down to the point where they can support people with Agent Orange. It's a wrong thing to do.
Yeah, I know because you guys are heroes and you protected us for so many years, and we don't have the courage to do what you guys did, and
Well,
you
it's
deserve to be very well taken care of.
no, being a good American has nothing to do with whether you have the courage to go fight. It has to do with everyday life, you
Mm.
know, how you treat your neighbors, how you support your police, fire, your EMTs, um, the kindness that you show to your neighbors. I mean, all those things are heroic actions in a world where it's the agreement. Those are the agreements that make life worth living.
Right.
That's heroic action. It's non-heroic action when you only look in the mirror and say, "I'm taking care of number one and screw everybody else." You know,
Right. True.
that's not heroic.
True. True.
Uh,
Yeah.
so, and that's as far as I'll go into politics.
Okay, okay. No, that's good. No, I love it. I love it because I haven't seen you, at least in the interviews I watch, I haven't seen you talking about this topic much, and so I appreciate you're talking about it here because it's nice to see a different Joe, a little bit than other than remote viewing Joe, which is great. But there is so much more about Joe, I think, and that's why I have a bunch of questions. So, for you, something I wanted to say is like, I noticed I wrote this. So I noticed your spirit naturally leads you to have fun. Your smiles, your happiness seem to be rooted in having fun. Is it the foundation of your charisma? And the question is, how important it is to have fun, and when did you learn the importance of having fun in life? So,
No, I will tell you, when you live in a ghetto, having fun's really hard.
right, exactly. Yeah,
But
I bet.
when you have fun, there's few people that get angry. And
True.
so, as a young person growing up in a ghetto, um, there's a lot of threat. there, because if you you go to the store to get a carton of milk for your mother, you're a target walking down the street for the money going or the milk coming, one or the other. And so I found that with guys who were always bigger than me, and people who had these terrible plans on the milk or the money, that if you smile a lot, you were happy. It's contagious. You know, they don't really want to spoil that
Right.
because it's so rare in a ghetto. Uh, and so the other part is that uh, for me, other things that are probably not noticed by other people, small things that are going on in life and in reality. I just find some of it humorous and fun. I don't know. It's just part of my nature, I guess.
Hmm.
It's one of those. The thought that comes to mind all the time is, yeah, this could be the worst thing in the world, but
Hmm.
I've seen worse.
Right.
It's like,
Is that something that you developed yourself, or that's something you got maybe from your dad, or where did you get that attitude of like, oh,
I've
having
got.
fun is a good
I
thing?
can tell you, I got it from my interaction with my four younger sisters.
Oh,
Now, I should say three, because my other sister, who's dead now, she was my twin.
okay,
I like to say my younger sister, though, because I was born 18 minutes before she was,
okay,
and I never let her forget that. But yeah, my interaction with my sisters,
right.
that was always fun,
That was a
uh,
fun. You got
because
it from that.
they're different. I gotta say they're different.
Yes, they are very different. I have three young daughters. They are 10, 8, and 3.
Oh
And
my
so they're
God.
all different. They're all
Yeah,
different.
yeah. Uh-huh. And they're all competitive. Uh,
Yes. Well, when I have fun with them, the day is much better. Everything is much better if you make a joke or a silly joke, and then you teach them to make jokes, and it's fun. So I wrote two quotes for you. One is, "You cannot compete with someone who is having fun," and that is by Tiago Forte, whoever that is. I don't know who that is. And the other quote is, "Don't forget to have fun. None of this ultimately matters." And that's an
that's right.
unknown author.
Exactly. Yeah. It's like everybody has an opinion about something. And what I find to be one of the most distracting things is when something is treated so seriously that if your opinion is not like mine, you're no longer my friend. Get out of my face. That kind of thing. I mean, come on, look at where you could take that, you know. You
Right.
use what toothpaste? Oh, get out of my face, man.
Eh,
Or you drink what beer? Or it's stupid. It's
right,
stupid.
stupid. I know.
It's the thing. It's like I say in the remote viewing class. I always say this. I don't care where you might have learned or been trained in remote viewing. I care about the result and how we can get you to be better. And so
Hmm.
if you stand on your head in a bucket of mud, whistling Dixie through a straw in your left nostril, wearing a pink tutu when you do your remote viewing, that's cool. I have no problem with that.
Right.
In fact, I'd like to see it. But the protocol is more important. The protocol is everything. You can't be a remote viewer unless you're following a remote viewing protocol, and it
Right.
hasn't changed since 1972. So, yeah, that's how I deliver the message, and I
Mhm.
want people to understand. I really don't care if they stand on their head or they turn
Right.
inside out or hold
Mhm.
breath, their breath till they're blue in the face. It's like I want to
Right.
watch it, but
Right. 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 Right.
it's the
Exactly.
result. That's what counts, the protocol.
Hmm.
Yeah.
And remote viewing two, the second part of the class. I mean, the second training remote.
Uh,
What will be? I mean, what are the differences between the first class and the second class? I mean, in
yeah.
general, you know.
The first class is having people come to understand uh, three primary things, really. The first one is you don't need to learn anything new to be a remote viewer. You have to unlearn all the bad habits you've picked up since you were born on
Mhm.
how you live with reality. Okay. You got to unlearn a lot of those habits because the habits are bad. We get a little bit of information and we make conclusions and make these leaps to belief in something that's totally erroneously wrong. It we're taught to take shortcuts. We're taught to just make these profound discoveries instantaneously. No, it takes thought. It takes real reasoning, and it takes sometimes not just days, but months to come to a conclusion about something in an appropriate way. Okay.
Mhm.
But we have people go to war over two facts that they put together badly. So that's one thing. We try to deliver that message. Secondly, there's a belief that remote viewing is you see something and you try to describe it. No,
Mm.
there's a huge difference between seeing with your eyes or even in your imagination
Mhm.
and perception. Perception is totally different because it involves seeing, feeling, smelling, tasting, emotion, so many
Right.
other parts of your perception that's the only way you can get to really ground truth. The third thing is in remote viewing, it's not about knowing what it is, precisely how it looks, anything like that. It's about small bits and pieces of statement about something that you can say, I can die with that. I
Mhm.
understand that one piece I really believe is true. Everything else is so what? It's that one little piece that's applicable. And it's usually that one little piece that solves the issue or
Mhm.
creates the answer or
Right.
gets everybody on the right track to get the answer. And
Right.
if you understand, that's the reason it was designed the way it was designed and the way it ties into what we call our natural desire for survival, or what I call defensive, um, automatic defense for living or life. Every human has it. Um,
Yeah.
it's why we conquer the planet, and the cave bear didn't, and the saber-toothed tiger is gone, and all
Mhm.
these savage animals couldn't do it, but we could because we have this, and we also have the capacity to think.
Mhm.
Uh, and then there's other things about it that are minor that I like to deliver, which should be something like, because you can, should you, you know,
Right.
that
Mhm.
should be a question on everything you do.
Mhm.
Because
Right.
we're able to do A, should we do it?
Should we do it? Right.
Yeah. And that goes to, okay, we discover atomic energy. And what's the first thing we did? We built a bomb with it. Come
Right.
on. That's the most immature thing on the planet. And people, oh, but it ended the war. It saved thousands of people. Oh, really? It basically vaporized 400,000
Oh,
people in two cities. I mean, come on,
wow. Oh,
be real.
right. I know.
It's a lot of people don't know there were thousands of American prisoners of war that were vaporized in Hiroshima.
Right.
They don't even realize that. Um,
Mhm.
so, it's that kind of thing. I'm trying to deliver that message, and then there's a secret part of it, which is it's fun to do. It's fun to be with other people when you're doing it, and it develops. In order to become really, really good at it, you have to have a an absolute solid, immovable foundation that's moral and ethical.
Right.
Otherwise, you cannot philosophically change for the better.
Mm-hmm.
And so you will always fail.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of the secret part that I don't, usually talk about. It sneaks up on people.
Right.
Oh,
Right. Mm-hmm.
but there's a lot about it like that. And in the original 6 viewers, we recognize that. Maybe it's because we're all naturally talented or something. I don't know, but in our coming together and doing the remote viewing, we all spent a lot of time discussing those important things, and it made a huge difference on our capability.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That sort
And
of thing.
Joe, in the remote viewing 2 class that you also teach, what are the in general, what are the
Well,
things that you,
one of the great things that we can learn to use, and I was taught this at Stanford when the program when I retired from the Army, I went right to the science side. So I was in Stanford Research Institute with the researchers on remote viewing. They brought in a woman by the name of Frances Farrelly. She was the president of the American Dowsers Association at the time in her 70s. And we did an exchange. I taught her remote viewing and she taught me dowsing. And dowsing happens to be a functional tool that you can add to the viewing that makes it even better. Dowsing is probably 100 different ways of doing dowsing a location or dowsing an answer to something. If you're dowsing a location and you've already done the viewing, it almost always comes together as a single statement. But when I did all the shows in Japan over a 6-year period, we looked for missing people, and we had a dowser on our show every time. And there was a guy named Leroy Bull at the time. He was the American president of the American Dowser Association, and he's an absolute brilliant guy. And the problem he had to solve almost every single time he was filmed, they had these time capsules that little kids would fill and bury in the ground at their elementary schools. The problem was, now you flash forward and all those young kids are now in their 70s and they want to find that time capsule. The problem is all these changes have been made to the school, additions, gardens, gymnasiums, all these kinds of things. So they have no idea where the time capsule is anymore. And the teachers are long gone. So they would bring him in and put him at a table facing the school, and they'd lay the entire plat of the school out as it exists today. And he would douse where the location was of the time capsule. So he's never seen the school. He talks to none of the kids. In fact, he couldn't because they speak Japanese and he doesn't. So he sits at this table, he's filmed dowsing, and he finally decides on a location. He makes a little X. Now, the deal with the studio was if he put that X in the southwest corner of the inside of the gymnasium, they got to open the doors, take the digger in, and right through the floor. Okay. And then the studio repair whatever damage was done. I remember the first one he ever did. Beautiful garden. Japanese could know how to put a garden in. They had this gorgeous garden in this central courtyard area where they had modified a whole bunch of buildings and stuff. And he said it's in this garden. So they had to squeeze this digger this digger on tracks, had to squeeze it into the garden, and it made a mess of the garden just getting in there. And then right where the X was, digger nose goes in and pulls a big pile of dirt up, and hanging off one of the tines was a time capsule.
Oh,
He never missed the
wow.
first strike with the digger. Always came up with dirt and a time capsule hanging off it or mixed in with the dirt. He never missed. The guy was that good,
Wow.
just
Wow.
absolutely incredible. And
Mhm.
so we teach dowsing, and there's other things we teach. We teach psychometry.
Mm.
Psychometry has to do with putting your hand on something and getting more information about it, even
Oh.
if it's in a sealed container or a box.
Mhm.
So if you have a missing person and you're
Mhm.
having a hard time targeting that missing person, you can take something they owned or handled every day, put it in a sealed box, wrap the box up, and hand it to someone, and they can just sit there with the box in their lap. And
Mm.
through psychometry, provide more statements or more accurate information. Um, we teach that. And there's a number of other things we do. We modify the round robin that we do, where we have the viewer, the analyst, and the monitor. Uh, we do away with the analyst and we use just the monitor and the viewer, but we change the type of targets they do so that they can expand their skill set to some
Mhm.
degree.
Mhm.
I have a really good friend. He's a psychologist and he's done some remote viewing at Stanford Research. And he told me once he did a target. It took him hours and hours. And I was confused by the fact that that would happen because the target essentially didn't have anything in it. It was just a square patch of grass.
Mhm.
And he told me when he finished, he said, that was the hardest target that I ever did in my life.
Oh wow.
Because he said grass is basically unimportant.
Mm.
And
Right.
there was nothing else there. And I kept trying to put stuff there and it wasn't working. But it took him hours to come to that conclusion because
Wow.
nothing was there. And
Mhm.
that's a hard target to do.
Right. Right.
So there all kinds of things. We have things that have vanished, and we can show the route that was taken when the thing vanished.
Mm.
And the route's straightforward, point A, point B. It's not very far, but somewhere in between, this thing vanished.
Mhm.
And it turns out that there's a reason. No, I'm not going to go into the reason here, but it's impossible reason to know unless you're actually using remote viewing and dowsing
Mhm.
together. And I would say maybe 1 in 5 people usually get a pretty good idea where it went,
Mhm.
what happened to it, but most don't. And it's
Mhm.
because it's hard to try to use the two in conjunction. But when you do and it works, it's unbelievable for finding things.
Mhm.
That sort of stuff. But and a lot more viewing, by the way.
Right.
So
Right. Well, that's very interesting. I hope to get to the second class one day. So,
I
uh,
hope you can too. I you
yes.
know it distressed me. We had the class that you had to leave because you weren't feeling well. We had 2 other people uh, go through the same thing.
Oh,
So
really? Oh,
yeah, I think it's a problem with how you get to the class when you have to fly in a plane
right.
with a bunch
Right.
of people and people fly when they're deathly ill. They don't care about other people. They
Right.
won't
Right.
even wear a mask. And
Right.
and you finally get to where you're going and you're going to do something really fun and you get sick because you were sitting next to somebody on a plane or a bus or a train or whatever.
Right.
That's frustrating. That's
It
truly
is.
frustrating. And
It is. Yeah, actually, I had 101 fever on Thursday morning.
Yeah.
No, on Friday morning, and then they told me, if you have fever on Saturday morning, you need to leave. So on Saturday
Yeah.
morning, I was down to 97, so I could
Yeah.
technically stay, but then I was still coughing, and we had to work on teams of 3 people, and I just thought it
Yeah.
wasn't fair for other
Yeah.
people for
That
me to be
I
coughing
can't.
and
I
coughing.
can't tell you how appreciative we were in you making that decision, because there's no way to know, and I think you erred to the right direction. I'm sorry to say that because you missed the
No, you know
program
what?
mostly, but
I thought that night that I was away, I thought, what would Joe do? And to me, the answer is like Joe will jump in his truck and leave,
then leave, right?
and probably without telling anybody, he will just
Yeah,
leave because for him, the group of people will be more important than
right.
him,
Always.
and
Yeah.
and
The
that
class
was
is always more important to me.
and that
So
was to
yeah,
me, that was like I just can't stay,
you
even
must have
if
been
I
reading my
technically
mind.
could. What's that?
You must have been reading my mind. I was hoping if you weren't feeling well that you would choose to go home.
I, I,
Um,
I I couldn't stay, Joe. I had to go because at the end of the day, it's a wonderful class and you are a legend, and I wanted to be there because of you. But at the end of the day, everybody's health and integrity is more important than my ego wanting to learn from Joe. And I was able to meet you. You signed my book. I have it here with me, framed, and I learned some remote viewing. And if life wants me back again, I will. And I don't know. I thought that it was the right thing to do, just to leave, and I wanted to stay, but it was if I stay, it was going to be a selfish decision, and it just didn't feel right to me. So, um, but oh well.
we appreciated what you did, your decision.
No problem. So I have a few more questions about your
Sure.
values that I want to kind of know what you think, and then I would like to ask you a few things about remote viewing. So the question, and they're kind of classic questions, but I wonder what you think. So the first question is, what does loyalty mean to you, and why it's so important?
Really about loyalty to me. It's when I teach and I share a lot of the information about remote viewing, I do it because it's what I know remote viewing is. Uh, I'm the only viewer out of the program that spent the entire time in the Stargate program. I was first one recruited. I turned the lights out when it ended in 1995. So I'm also the only one that went to Stanford Research Institute International after I retired from the Army in order to learn the science side.
Mhm.
I and that there was one other person, a young lady who did the same. She went to Stanford as well. The difference between us is she did that for the length of time that the program was still running. So it was around 1990 to 95. So she had 5 years in the science side. So that I love the fact that she did that because it made her even better.
Mhm.
She understood the need to understand the remote viewing, the scientific reasons why it works and why it happens. And so, but I spent 5 years at Stanford, and when they shut it down at Stanford, moved it to Science Applications International Corporation, I went with it. So I
Mhm.
stayed another 7.5, 8 years and at there. And then when they closed the program, I went with the science to Laboratories for Fundamental Research in Palo Alto, and I was connected there, golly, uh, until about the same time I stopped my martial arts, which was a year and a half ago. So I was intimately involved in the science side, and for 28, 28 years. It's either 28 or 30. I'm not sure. I can't remember now. But so I had 3 times the amount of time in the science side that I had on the collection side, but I was on the collection side from beginning to end. So I have a lot of experience. Plus, I started my own company when I retired from Fort Meade in the Army. A year later, my wife and I created a company called Intuitive Intelligence Applications, and we incorporated in the state of Virginia. And that company existed also up until about 2 years ago. So that was a company that existed 41 years. And through that company, I gave support to I don't know how many police departments, sheriff's departments, missing persons, missing children, a lot of missing children, uh, and all the crime and that sort of stuff. But I also continued giving support to at least 6 of the major intelligence agencies in America. So I've been a remote viewer for almost 50 years, 48 or 49 years, fulfilling that same role that I began with in the Stargate program. So a lot of people don't know that. And I'd like to say that my remote viewing got a whole lot better. Uh, it, it's the reason why I like talking about it is because it's a skill set. It is like a martial art of the mind. And over all those years, my viewing improved not only measurably, but enough that I now have a one of a kind display in the Unclassified Museum of the National Security Agency for one of my viewings. It was about as near perfect as one could produce a remote viewing. And compared to when I started, you can really see the difference. I mean, it's classic. So in teaching it, I try to give the best concepts of how to do it that I can produce, because I want people who want to be a remote viewer, I want to experience remote viewing. I want them to experience it in the way it's actually done, is in a way that when you come to understand what the experience is, it changes you profoundly forever. You never can go back. And because it changes you forever, it also affects your humanity, your ethics, your morality, everything. And I think that's better than the remote viewing part. Believe it or not, for me it is. It makes everybody a better person. And I can't take credit for that. I got to blame the martial art of this.
Right. Yeah, it is incredible to me. It was life changing to me to experience that. It was magical in a way.
Yeah.
And also understanding that everybody can do it.
Right.
And seeing everybody doing it, it was mind blowing to me. I was like, wow.
It's a survival mechanism. We've had it since the beginning of man.
Right. When we didn't have it language and right. Yeah. Yeah, so it was really amazing. So I look forward to keep practicing and keep learning. So I have 2 more questions for your values, and the next one is, what does authenticity mean to you, and how much do you value it in other people?
I value it very much. And here's the reason why. It does not have the profound effect on you when you violate the protocol. The
Mhm.
only really authentic method of remote viewing has to be within the protocol. And the
Right.
protocol has existed since 1972. It's been modified once to deal with what are called forced choice, like yes or no, bet, don't bet, go, don't go, that kind of thing. It's called a forced choice,
Mhm.
difficult forced choice decision. It can be used in a modified way to produce the actual answer that will occur in the end. And a lot of people don't believe that, except there is a front page article on the New York Times that speaks to an investment that was made by Dr. Hal Puthoff and Russell Targ back when they were experimenting, where
Mhm.
they raised sufficient money. They went something like 12 straight decisions on silver shares and raised enough money to buy all of the sports equipment, all of the costumes, the instruments, everything for a high school that's necessary for their sports department, their band, any kind of equipment they needed. They bought it all by using remote viewing and multiplying the investment. I think they started with $10,000 and they ended with over $250,000. But that was actually on the front page of the New York Times. Psychics used to produce this much money. That's been done on numerous occasions. It's also failed in a mighty way because of a misunderstanding of statistics by one of the investors. I was part of that group. Uh, we I can't tell you how much money was involved because we started with a large pot. I think it was 50K. And the idea was that when we reached a certain amount, we would stop. And uh, we had, I think, 16 straight decisions had been perfect, made the right decision on whether to reinvest or whatever. At the 16th event, we did the remote viewings, and it came out that uh, we should do it a certain way. I think it was bet A and not B. And
Mhm.
the person who was actually buying the ticket or making the bet sat down and figured the statistical odds of picking it right 17 times in a row, and the result he got scared him half to death. And so what he did is he went and he invested the opposite the opposite way. He was supposed to like buy and he sold, lost everything. And we asked him, why did you do that? You went against the remote viewing. And he said, because if you understand the statistics, it was like almost like 1 in 7 trillion or something that it would hit again. And we explained to him, look, yes, that's in when you're looking at 1 in 100 and 1 in 16 choices, but it isn't 1 in 16 choices. It's always 50-50.
Right.
Yes or no.
Mhm.
It's
Mhm.
never 1 in 16. It's always 50-50. And he went, oh my God. And I said, right. And then he said, let's do it again. And we all said, no, to hell with it. I mean, go away. So there's a flaw in the fact that you're dealing with humans.
Right. Right.
The remote viewing worked perfectly, 16 straight runs. And then the human failed. But
Mhm.
uh, I just find it really comical sometimes.
Right.
Uh,
Right. In- Interesting. And Joe, question more about life. So, what do you think about forgive? Is forgiveness necessary? Is that I'm sorry? Is forgiveness mandatory? do you have to forgive or not really? Or
Oh,
depends?
absolutely. Absolutely have to forgive. And
Mhm.
otherwise, you're saying you're perfect and no one else is.
Right,
I mean, everybody makes mistakes. Everybody
right.
fails. Everybody makes mistakes. Everybody makes a wrong choice.
Hmm.
Not everybody would do exactly the perfect thing. And so, no, I'm flawed. I screw up more than common sometimes, depending on the subject matter. It's what it is to be human. And I think what's important is to realize the what would you call it? The weakness of being a human. That's like part of human that brings more interest into life. You
Right.
can't be perfect all the time. If you were, it'd be a boring place to be.
Hmm.
Um, Now, certain things, I think there would be certain things I would be really hard pressed to forgive.
Right.
Um, Taking of a life as an example.
Right. Right.
In my opinion, I would probably have a lot of difficulty with someone who did it for pleasure,
Right.
um,
Right.
or torture. Uh,
Right.
I mean, there are certain things that I am willing to die for,
Right.
and I know exactly what those are,
Hmm. Right.
and I'm willing to go to the grave over it. Um, so, but those are personal. There are things that I've been very, very close to in some cases. So I make no bones about it. Uh,
Hmm.
but in general, no.
In general. Right.
If someone, everybody's got value. I mean,
Right.
why would you condemn someone who has extreme value? And everybody does.
Right.
I've never met a truly, well, mostly 99% of the people I've met are good people. There is 1% that I
Right.
think are basically evil
Right.
incarnate.
Exactly.
And I think those people, I just rather not know.
Right. Look away because
Yeah, yeah,
there's not much to. They teach you what not to do. So,
but exactly, exactly. It's like one of the areas I worked in Europe, it was a little town called Brunau am See, which means Brunau on the shore side or on the river side or something like that. And it was they have a lovely guest house there. It's absolutely gorgeous, and I love staying there on a weekend. And then I found out that's the town Hitler was born in,
oh,
and I went, "Oh my God!" Uh, oh, I wonder what part of the town really bothered him. And then I found out. I started asking people, "Was he actually born here?" "Oh yeah, he was born here. He was born right over there on that building."
oh.
And I said, "Well, what is that building?" "Oh, it's a butcher." It's where they slaughtered cows. He was born right over a butcher shop.
Wow.
Go figure. I mean, that's
Oh,
like,
man.
oh man. So, there's things I detest.
Right.
Just straight up cold-blooded murder is not a good thing.
No.
I understand why people do it sometimes.
Hmm.
Uh, it's truly possible to do something so egregious to someone or their family that they would contemplate doing it, but it's
Right.
still no excuse for doing it.
Right. Right.
Uh, it as a human being, there's no legality about taking a life, in
Right.
my opinion.
Yeah.
Not when you can, deal with it in some other way. In
Right.
fact, I was totally in support of the death penalty for some of
Hmm.
the most heinous crimes that were ever done.
Right.
And then I changed my mind about 7 years ago. I said, no, I can't support the death penalty.
Hmm.
And people say, well, I can't believe that. Why did you change? And the reason I changed is because I came into knowledge of the fact that in at least 14% of the people incarcerated for having murdered somebody, 14% are innocent.
Oh,
And
my.
yet we put them all to death. That's
Exactly.
unconscionable. If you
Right.
know you have an error rate of 14%, you have to
Yeah.
stop.
Yeah, and if you incarcerate somebody for life, then that's enough punishment too.
And even that, I think in some cases, I'll give you a statement. I know I had my wife, her uncle was a judge his whole life. He was a judge for like 50 something years. And at dinner once, I was talking to him about this whole issue. And what he said was, Joe, he said, understand something. As a judge, there's the law, and I have to follow the law to the T. And he did very religiously. The law was everything for him. He said, but he had a case once where a woman in her 50s had been brutally treated by her husband. I mean, beaten on almost a day-to-day basis, raped, and just, I mean, this most heinous evil person was her husband. And she got arrested because she killed him dead with a hammer while he was sleeping.
Oh wow.
And he said, Joe, the law says she contemplated it, she planned it, she hid the hammer, she did the job, and then she was caught and found guilty of first-degree murder with prejudice or something. I can't, not with prejudice. I can't remember what the term was. He said, and so I had to, the law gave me a choice. I could have her serve a penalty in prison for life or have her put to death. He said, I chose life. But he said, I really didn't want to do that. And I said, why not? It's the law. And he said, yeah, but if you understood the way she was treated for decades, she had the right to take that man's life. And he said, and I and anyone else that knew all the facts would say the same thing. However, it's the law, and you cannot change the law. So he gave her life in prison. And he said it was really hard for him to do that. I can understand that. It's like it's hard for someone who's been in combat to condemn a young person, 18 to 20 years old, who is in combat, who does something wrong. How
Right.
do you do that?
Right. Right.
Differentiate, you know?
Right. Right. Right.
You can't. You can't do it.
Tough.
So I'm just glad I'm not a judge. That would give me a problem. And
That's a tough
so,
job.
but those are judgments we don't have to make because the law is very specific.
Yeah.
It's enforcing that kind of law is difficult, and I wouldn't want to be the one who has to do that.
hmm hmm Yeah. No, it's a tough job. Joe, I'm gonna skip some questions because I know you are going to get going at one point, but I have like another 30 or so questions. But
Sure.
I'm just gonna go with a few, and then we'll see when we need to go. You just let me know. But I wrote a book called "We Are the Aliens." It's fiction,
Yes,
and the question to you is, Joe, are we the aliens?
absolutely.
Can you
I get
expand
the
on that?
biggest chuckle when you sent me that book. That's incredible. That's I you you don't know how much work I've done in that area, but um I and understand something. I detest targeting UFOs and aliens and all that kind of stuff because there's no way to prove anything. So it's
Right.
useless to me as a method of improving my skill set. But So it does more to make me angry. But the fact of the matter is, my belief, and it's based on everything that I have seen coming off negatives of Mars, I'm absolutely sure that we were originally residents of Mars. It might have been a million years ago, might have been
Oh, yeah.
shorter than that, or it might have been even longer back. But I believe that to be true. Okay, because of remote viewing that I did for the Department of Defense.
I remember a million
Yeah.
years ago.
So,
Yeah.
so given that's true, we were rescued. Somebody rescued us and brought us to this planet. And I think the entities that did that are residents of this planet. In other words, they're true Earthlings, and
Right.
we're the aliens. Okay,
Exactly right. Well, in
and
that book,
we're driving them crazy because what
yes,
they're hoping for, what they really want to see, is they want to see humanity mature and become better.
right,
Okay, and
right.
we're failing
We're
in every
failing
respect,
miserably.
and we have for millions of years because we have not been here for just 2 million years. We've been here for 25 million years, and every time we should be being more and more positive and improved. We prove that we're incapable of maturing, and they knock us back to sticks and stones. And I think that the last great time of that was the flood. The great flood exists in almost every history of every single country or people on this planet. And I think it's the reason why is the entities who actually own and live on this planet said, okay, that's it. They need to start over again and relearn. And so we had this big flood. The surviving humans were allowed to live and, uh, make more babies and have more humans with the idea that eventually we would mature in some way and they could actually introduce themselves to us and we would get along. But
Right,
no, I
right.
don't think so. And
No.
and in fact, they're very good at hiding from us because I've seen things in the research area that tells me everything I need to know. They're depending on our getting some form of maturity at some point,
Right,
and we're
right.
fooling them every time we reach a certain level. We just can't seem to do that.
They're very patient.
And they throw in a little genetic change every now and then
Uh,
to see if that's going to help, and it doesn't do any good at all. But
right.
so we're basically a threat to them. And if you have a civilization that is reach a certain level of immaturity, and you have another civilization that's a 500,000 years ahead that's very mature, the two can never come together. If they come together, they'll destroy one another. There's just no compatibility there. And so we didn't even know these things existed until we started seeing more and more and more evidence. And the reason we see more and more evidence is because of the stupid things we've done in the past that caused them stress. And it's like when we were in covered wagons going west to discover the rest of America, we were probably fine. It's somewhere between then and the Second World War when we developed the atomic bomb and detonated the first bomb at Trinity Site, New Mexico.
Like that.
And all of a sudden, there's 2 UFOs show up, and one of them crashes. Hits a tower or something. Now, I think they've exposed themselves for a reason. They wanted to see what is this thing that just ripped time space, and why did they build it? We don't understand. It's a perfect thing for producing energy. Why did they use it in a war way on their own desert in the middle of nowhere and
Yeah.
rip space-time and shake us all up. And it's like they did it because they could. Well, that doesn't make any sense, that sort of
Right.
thing.
Right. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's when we started seeing the entities that we share the planet with. I think
Right.
they've been there all along. They help rescue us, and they're waiting for us to mature. Instead, we
Right.
give them threat. And
Right.
when we become too much of a threat, they engineer climate change or something and right back to sticks and stones. We got to learn to,
Right. You gotta do it again. You
there's a
screw up
great
too
book
badly.
that I got to recommend. There's a huge book out. It's called Forbidden Archaeology by a
Forbidden
Dr.
archaeology.
Cremo and Dr. Thompson. I think Dr. Cremo just died. It's based on anthropology and archaeologists who have written papers that have never been published. People will never publish them. A guy like Leakey, Dr. Leakey, who supposedly discovered Lucy in the Aldabi Gorge in Africa, he's written thousands of papers and they've all been published. But eventually he wrote one that no one would publish.
Mm,
Why? Well, Cremo and Thompson went out and collected all these papers that nobody would publish. It
mhm,
turns out because they changed their minds.
mm,
Dr. Leakey changed his mind on the beginning of human.
uh-huh,
He came out with the conclusion that we're doing this over and over and over and over.
mhm,
And humans, there's bountiful evidence that humans have been on this planet for, relatively speaking, 23 to 25 million years.
wow.
And I
Wow.
mean, there's huge amounts of evidence.
Right.
And
Right.
if you read this book, you'll believe it's true. I
No,
guarantee it
I
because
will.
of the evidence itself, the scientific evidence. And yet nobody will address it. It's like, no, 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 that can't be right. We came out of trees. We were monkeys. My
Right.
my big question is, if we came out of a tree as a monkey and grew into a modern human, why do we still have monkeys? I
Right.
don't understand that.
Right.
Um,
That's a good
you know,
question. Yeah.
why I thought we all became humans, so why do we still have monkeys? Doesn't make
Right.
any sense. Uh,
Yeah.
Anyway,
I believe they live among us. They live under the oceans and underground.
hmm
That's what I believe. But anyway, in my book, We Are the Aliens, the protagonist, his name is Joe Monroe, and it's based on you. So it's
it's
inspired
good.
in you. It's not. It's a different. It's a character. It's a different character, but it's inspired in you. And I wasn't going to name him Joe McMoneagle, but I combined Joe and the Monroe Institute, so his name is Joe Monroe, and he's the leading role in the book. So it was fun to. You were a great inspiration
I
to me.
mean, that was so. When I got that book from you, it was like perfect. I'm still
Yeah,
reading it, by the way. I haven't. My time is. It's
yeah,
like
yeah. I know
I
your
used to
time is
read all
crazy.
the time, and I just spend all my time now answering emails or getting rid of
Fantastic.
emails. Oh my God! I mean, we're overrun with ads and stuff.
Right, right.
You know.
And Joe, did you ever have any encounters in some way, shape, or form with aliens? While you were
Yeah.
remote viewing, or while you were dreaming, or like something you
No,
can tell.
I had an encounter. My first tour as an intelligence officer. I wasn't an officer then. I was a sergeant. But um, since I graduated first in I had three courses I took up in Fort Devens, Massachusetts. I graduated first in the class in all three. So my reward was I was not on the block allocation that went to Vietnam. Instead, they held me back, and I had to ditch the uniforms and go and buy a bunch of civilian clothes. And in fact, Hang on. I have a thing here. I'll show you what I looked like back then. Well, maybe not back then, but this is the kind of uniform I wore. I can see that.
Oh, is that you?
That's how I was. But
Wow.
it was in the Bahamas. I got assigned to a small little base on Eleuthera, which is the breadbasket for the Bahamas. That's where they grow all the food.
Hmm.
And it was an air base, but as an air base, it had one Air Force person, and that was the major that ran it. Almost everybody there was an engineer. William Bendix, RCA Victor, Pan American World Airways. They were all downrange engineers for tracking missiles or rocket launches out of Cape Canaveral. So that's where I was assigned, and it was a very small unit, 11 people, and we were called the downrange missile facility or something. And I can't remember now, but we basically were, our cover was air sea rescue. We would rescue people on small yachts and things that would run aground and were sinking. Um, and I actually facilitated the rescue of 7 people off a yacht that ran aground.
Wow.
What's interesting about it is when we rescued all 7 people on this boat and then took their fingerprints and sent them into the United States because, yeah, of course, all their passports were burned up on this yacht and it ran around. But what's funny is they all came back on makes and warrants for Dade County in Florida. The yacht was stolen. The captain of the yacht had stolen it. His first mate was a criminal who'd robbed banks. There were 3 women on board. They were all prostitutes out of Miami Beach. It was turned in. I rescued a bunch of crooks. They all thanked
Nice.
me profusely.
Give you a few
Uh,
favors for the
anyway,
rest of your life.
yeah. But we had another job too. It was an intelligence job. They went. The Bahamas were going independent from England, from the United Kingdom, and we offered help, and they said no, we don't need any help. We're fine. And on that island, which is 160 miles long, they had 3 police officers, none of them armed. They all wore red and white, white, and blue uniform with the pith helmet and carried a nightstick.
Hmm.
So there was a possibility that uh, some others would try to take over the Bahamas and occupy it. So anyway, I was down there 18 months, and I did a lot of fishing, swimming, and diving, and not much of anything else. But I did see get to participate for about 17 hours in a Class 5 hurricane. I've been born and raised in Miami, Florida.
Right.
I
Yes.
had been in probably 12 hurricanes, but I'd never seen a Class 5. And this Class 5 I was in was truly scary. And we got stranded. I and my partner, we worked in pairs there. And our job, when the wind got above, I think it was 75 knots, we were supposed to pull all the classified equipment into a Jeep and run down to the airstrip and throw it all on a plane. We'd all fly out together.
Hmm.
And what happened is I'm watching the animator. We had everything packaged in black bags and we were throwing them in the Jeep. And the animator was going 60, 60, 120, 120. And I went, oh my God. So now we're fighting wind. We got in the Jeep and we started it. And right as we started the Jeep, we saw the plane going, flying away.
Oh.
So he and I were stuck there through this Class 5 hurricane. And I mean, it was horrible. We chained the van down we drove stakes into the car and chained it down to the stakes and put everything of value in that one van. And then when we got in it, 2 wild dogs came in right behind us. They were puppies and came right in. We couldn't touch them. We went to touch them and put them outside, and they growled and snapped at us. So they got to stay inside with us for 17 hours. And we actually seam welded the door shut because I knew how violent this hurricane was going to be. And we had gusts upwards of 180 miles an hour. And
Wow.
when we came out of the van 12 hours later, everything was gone.
Wow.
Our antennas, our vehicles, generators, the other van, the workbench area where we repaired things. Even the paving on the road was gone. The underlayment for the paving was gone. At a local graveyard, all the caskets had floated to the top of the sand and been tossed everywhere, and there were sort of body parts hanging out of trees. It
Oh
looked
my
like
God. Wow.
Christmas at the vampire's house or something. It was, and then there was no way to get to us because the roads were gone. So we had I think it was 4 cases of beer and 1 case of tuna fish. And so we shared the tuna fish with the dogs and drank the beer. They got beer too.
I
And
was going to ask you, did you
yeah,
share
made
the
them
beer
really
with the poor
calm.
dogs?
And 4 days later, this bulldozer came out of the woods, just like boom, landed on our little hilltop, and we were saved. So I got a promotion and a medal out of it, and and then I went to Vietnam.
Oh my God.
So it was scary. I have to tell you, at one point we had 3 feet of water in the van because we were on the highest hill on the whole island. It was 80 feet above sea level. So we had 3 feet of water in this van where we had seam welded the door shut. And while we were in there, you couldn't hear, you couldn't think, the noise was so loud from gravel and sand and stuff hitting the ends and the sides of the van constantly 24/7. I was able to talk to Homestead, Florida for half the time because I had taken the whip antenna and tied it down so it wouldn't be just blowing in the wind. And I was talking using international Morse code to Homestead, Florida. And at some point we heard a bang, and then I couldn't talk to them anymore. The antenna went off the van. But every vehicle, both generators, everything was gone. Just
Right.
I think we found 1 truck in 300 feet of water
Wow.
months later.
Wow, man. Well,
So
that's a story. And Joe, you mentioned that you saved many kids throughout your career, and was that the most rewarding thing you've ever done through remote viewing, or one of them? Well, what is it like to know that you actually saved a kid?
it's unbelievable. The sense of uh, the success of locating a 4 or 5-year-old kid that's missing and will die in a number of hours because of the temperature or something. It's dead of winter. Um, Saving a young child is just it's a high. You float in it for a month. It's incredibly good feeling.
Hmm.
It's worse when you aren't when you don't get there in time.
Right.
It's especially bad when you have to fight with somebody over the
Right.
fact that
Yeah.
they're using psychic information. And
Right.
that's crap. It doesn't work. Get out of my face with that. And you fight with them and fight with them for hours. And they
Yeah.
finally get through every other way that they need to work. And they finally get to the place where they say, okay, we'll try your way. And you go out there and find the missing kid, right where you said they were all along. and they're face down and they've been dead an hour. It's
Right.
like, no.
No, I remember the story you told us during the class with that sheriff, and I think it was a sheriff.
Yes, was a sheriff.
Oh my God, it broke my
Yeah,
heart because I have kids and I have young kids,
yeah.
and when you
He
told us all
arrested
your
me.
reaction, I was feeling it because I
Yeah,
would have
I,
reacted the same way.
I went right there. In fact, I was talking to a class, and 10 o'clock at night, I came out and was a note under my windshield wiper. It said missing little kid. And I went there, and it was a 8-year-old little girl. And she went out. It was a beautiful day. It was December the 20th. And she went out on this gorgeous day where the temperature was warm. And she went out in shorts and a t-shirt and sneakers with her 2 dogs. And the dogs came home right after dark because the temperature started dropping. She did not. And if she was out there too long, she'd die of hypothermia. So I got this call, or they sort of called me. They put that note under my windshield wiper. So I went over there and I tried to put an X on the map where she was located, and I gave it to the tried to give it to the sheriff, and he wouldn't take it. I don't deal with psychics. That was his response.
Mm.
So I bumped into the the, the guy who controls hunting and everything in the area, and he said, "What? Well, why aren't you talking to the sheriff?" And I told him he didn't want to talk to me. So he says, "Give me your note." And I gave him the map, and he says, "I'll talk to him. I'll pretend that I got it somewhere else." I said, "Great." So I gave it to the sheriff, and by then it was 2 in the morning. And I said, "Look, I got to go home and get some sleep. So if you need me, I'm at home." And I went home. I was really frustrated. And 7 a.m. the next morning, I got awakened. The sheriff wants to see you right away. And I thought, finally. So I drove in, and as I was getting out of my truck, the deputy came over and he said, "I'm really sorry about this, but you got to put your hands on the hood."
Mm.
I went, "What?" He started going through my pockets. He said, "You're under arrest." He took me in handcuffed to the sheriff. And the sheriff says, "Okay, what did you do with this little girl?" And I said, "What are you talking about?" He said, "Well, we found her sneakers and her t-shirt where you put the X on the map. And the only way they could have gotten there is if you put them there." And I said, "Whoa, whoa, whoa, back up." And he said, "No." He said, "You're going to tell us where she is now, or whatever." I can't remember the exact statement, but he kept me handcuffed. And every time he asked me where she was, I said, "I want a lawyer." All I could respond with was, "I want a lawyer." And finally, his game warden is what he was, a guy named Michael. I knew him really well. Michael comes in and he says, um, probably shouldn't use the name. Anyway, sounded like that. He came in and he said, "What's going on?" And the sheriff says, "Well, we found her t-shirt and sneakers." And he said, "Oh, look, uh, Joe was talking to like 30 people and this happened." And it's, "Oh, well, he didn't say that." And he says, "Of course not. He's handcuffed. Uh,
Right.
you don't say anything. You ask for a lawyer, and
Right.
you didn't get him one."
Mm.
So he took the handcuffs off, and he said, "Okay, where would you put her if you said she was somewhere right now?" And so I made an X on another map, and I think I walked over. They had a grid thing on the wall, and I marked it just off the grid. So the sheriff says, "Oh, now we got to change the grid. And then we got to send in dog teams. And then we got to do this. And then we got to do that." I said, "Wait a minute. Just let us go in and get her." No, it's got to be done according to the rules. So we sat around while the dogs went in, and then this and that, whatever. And I think it was like 4 hours later. And he says, "Okay, now I'm going to send in 2 teams." So I made sure, uh, I and the game warden uh, decided to work on it together. Anyway, we put the X on the same maps of the searching team. Said, come together at the X, go as fast as you can. It was a canyon, which they did. And they finally got to this canyon, and it was not at the X. They had to look around, and up this little alcove about 75 feet away, they found her body laying face down. And when they rolled her over, she was, of course, dead, but there was no lividity, which meant that she had been dead less than an hour.
Right.
And had we been allowed to just go get her, she would be alive.
Right.
And all I wanted to do then is put a herd on the sheriff.
Same thing I would have done.
Yeah, but what I did instead is I went and talked to her parents, and he was looking for a job. I I think that's what happened. I'm not sure now, but it's a terrible feeling when you know something and nobody believes you.
Right.
And I have to say that happens more than once, which is why I decided to do the missing people in Japan. I looked for 24 missing people in Japan that were missing somewhere between 5 and 38 years. And I found 12 of them, exactly half.
Wow.
At the same time, I saw four murders, which will never be shown on television because it's against the law in Japan. And I failed one really terrible guy. But I did get to meet the police commissioner. He was in the hospital for 8 months because somebody tried to shoot him. It was an assassination attempt. And they caught the guy, but they couldn't bring him to trial because they had no weapon. And so I spent 4 days looking for and finding the weapon for them. That'll never be shown on television. There's just so many things out there you can use remote viewing for,
Right.
or not. You got to ask that question: should I or should I not be doing this? And sometimes, no, you shouldn't be.
Yeah, that you saving kids really resonated with me, and I was talking with my roommate Ignacio, who also
Yeah.
works for the Monroe Institute, and he told me about Lifeline. So I'm gonna be doing Lifeline. Actually, next week I'm starting Gateway.
Uh-huh.
I'm doing the virtual retreat,
Yeah.
and then in August I'm doing Lifeline.
Oh, cool.
Because
You'll
Lifeline is,
enjoy that. Yeah.
yeah, I think so because he was telling me that he was able to help a missing soul of a kid finding a guide and then reaching the light.
Yeah.
And that
Yeah.
really resonated with me. So,
Yeah. It's something they do in Lifeline. I never had the opportunity to do anything except a gateway, but that really helped me. And when I was in the Stargate Project, we were under a lot of stress. At some point, I was doing like 5 or 6 remote viewings a day,
wow.
and it was extremely stressful. And in fact, that stress eventually killed the original 6 people, except for me, and it almost got me.
Wow.
So uh, it was tough. Stargate was tough, and we dealt with the same issues. By the way, I had a very senior senator tell me I was in league with the devil and I would burn in the fires of hell. Wouldn't be
Oh,
in the
wow.
room with me. And at the same time that he was saying that, I had another senator walk up and give me a hug and whisper in my ear, "You're doing God's work, son. Keep it up."
Right, right.
So, come on. It's a survival mechanism. It's been tweaked a little bit to provide information that we can't get otherwise. And that's all. I mean,
Yeah,
it's not.
in your book, Remote View and Secrets, you wrote, remote viewing is a paranormal function.
Right.
Can you explain a little bit why?
Yeah, it's what it is in order for human to survive in our first exposure on this planet, we had to have some advantage that other animals don't have. Survival of a wolf pack, for instance, there's a probability that a wolf pack will survive in the wild a lot faster and longer than a human will. We don't have long nails. We don't have savage teeth. We don't have the smeller they have. And we certainly don't know how to hunt, run down, and kill game. So we'd all be dead. We'd be gone. But instead, here we are. We cover the whole planet. We're outgrowing our food production. So something's going to have to be done about how many babies are made in the future, or a lot of people are going to starve. So we're that good? No, I don't think so. I think there's an item that we have that no other animal has, and that's the ability to sense danger, sense something that's going to end a life. And there's a Dr. Dean Radin who proved that, by the way. What he did is he wires someone up the ring finger to the index finger, and he runs it into a computer and produces an output. And so on a screen, you can see this little line moving. It's off these two fingers. And what happens is, let's say he can make an event occur. He'll come up behind the person sitting in the chair blindfolded or whatever. And they don't have to be, but he did in the initial, I think, the initial testing. But he comes up there with two sticks and he goes smack right by the person's ear, and it startles them. So they jump in the chair. Well, on the readout for these two fingers, there's a peak at that snap, a huge peak. And then it slowly dies off as everything re-syncs in the body and the mind. Okay. What he noticed is way out front, about 1.5 to 2.5 seconds, there's a tiny little bump that looks exactly like the big one. And so he said, that's a warning. So to test it, what you do is you create an event that's going to happen automatically that you have no control over. And you wire somebody up to their two fingers, and you put a red light to a helmet that they put on or something. And as they're approaching the event, what happens is 2 seconds prior to, let's say, an IED going off, just as they get to the IED and the IED is detonated, you get that huge spike and then play off. But right in front, 2.5 seconds earlier, there's this little midget of a bump. And if you pay attention to that, if the computer looks at that or sees that, it will light up the 3 lights in the helmet, and the guy stomps the brake on the vehicle. The vehicle stops, and the ID goes off 35 yards in front. You just saved an entire Jeep load of people by just wiring up 2 fingers. Now, the things you don't know is, you don't know if over time, if people do that on a regular basis, do they become accustomed to it and no longer produce that little bump? We don't know that. But that certainly is something we should be researching. I mean, if you want to save lives in a combat zone, you want to do that.
So is that related to remote viewing, in the sense that viewing, as far as I understand, and maybe I'm wrong, but you cannot remote view the future, but you can remote the probable future. Is that right? Or
We don't know. We
okay.
don't know. There's not much of a difference if somebody predicts something and comes out exactly the same. And I got an example of that too. I've done this particular targeting 7 times on film, all done totally blind, completely blind. No one knows the answer. Where this is where I'm in a room and I draw something. This was, in fact, if you want to actually see this, there's a movie that Sandra Bullock was in, the actress Sandra Bullock, and it's called Phenomenon. Okay.
Okay.
And her premise is that when you predict something's going to happen or you see it in the dream with your loved one, there's nothing you do to prevent it. It's going to happen no matter what you do. I don't agree with that. Neither does Dr. May, my buddy. It's done all the remote viewing research. But what we do know is if what you can do is time doesn't exist. I'll start with that premise. Time as we use it tells us something about where we are in the moment. That's all. It is possible to go into the future and do something that the future will eventually prove happened, that you talked about. So the idea here is in this movie Phenomenon, there's an activity, there's 1 hour of activities in there in a separate place. If you play that 1 hour, at the very end, you'll see this demonstrated by me. And I've done this 7 times. It's come out 7 times perfectly. And this is where I'm sitting in a room and somebody says, show me remote viewing. I say, okay. So I draw something. I draw a picture of what they're going to see an hour later. And then I leave. I can get in the car and drive away. And they go, oh, that's remote viewing? No, I don't believe it. Okay. Well, here's what we're going to do. And Ed May goes over again, does his briefcase, and he pulls his computer out and he opens it up and he brings up the program that he has maybe 1,000 targets in. And he says to the person sitting next to him, he says, well, we want you to hit the K key. When you hit the K key, it's going to randomly predict 6 possible answers. It'll be 3 pictures and 3 pictures. So the person that's being filmed presses the K key and these 6 pictures come up. And the bottom right picture was the one that I just drew. And they go, wow, he just drew that. And Ed will say, no, not yet. We still have to randomly pick from the 6 now what the actual target is. And so they hit the K key again, and it's the one I drew. And this is the one I drew. It's in that activity file. If you can get a Phenomenon DVD, you can see it. Okay. That's the actual target.
Oh, wow.
And I drew it. I said it's a brick-walled city with turrets all around it. And it has 2 big doors to enter the city. And in the middle is a big white mosque. That's exactly what it is. And so I did this on film for Sandra Bullock's movie as part of the activity thing. And when I did, when I was called back into the room, the director was gone. And I said, where'd he go? And he's out front. He threw his clipboard up in the air and walked out the door, slammed the door, and he's out smoking a cigarette, walking up and down in your yard. So I went out. I said, what's wrong? And he says, we can't use it. And I said, why not? He said, it's perfect. Somebody will say, oh, they were in collusion. They told him what the target was going to be. And so I can't use it. And I said, so, okay, what do you want to do? And he says, well, let's do another one, but it can't be as good. So I did another one. It was better. You can actually see that on Sandra Bullock's film. It's what I do, you know,
Right.
And it has everything to do with intent. And as long as I understand that, nobody else does. It works perfectly. So I usually don't talk about how and why it works, but it does every single time. There's a huge difference in my viewing now and when I first started in Stargate. My original viewing in Stargate, from an artistic standpoint, is rough. It gave the right answers, and everybody benefited from that. But it's rough. And if you got a minute, I'll just give you two examples. Okay.
Yeah. No. I,
One example, let me find it here. One example is the submarine. You know, a lot of people know that I have predicted the
Saved.
launch of the Typhoon class submarine
Right.
and knew that it would be launched.
That was probably your most popular case, right?
Yes, we collected more intelligence on that one submarine and in 4 days than probably the entire Soviet subpack in history. And I
Wow.
predicted its launch by 112 days. And everybody thought it was total fantasy. Well, I'm going to show you something
Yeah.
that's really kind of interesting.
Oh, I love it.
Okay,
I
this
can
is an
talk for
example.
hours and hours with you, Joe.
This this is right out of the transcript that when that happened. This is how I depicted the Typhoon class submarine.
Hmm.
You're gonna see this. You're gonna say, "Oh, a 3-year-old did the target, right?"
Hmm.
But I said it was a huge submarine. I said it's so big, it's way bigger than any other submarine. And they said, "How big?" And I said, "Oh, it's the at least 30 feet shy the length of a Soviet aircraft carrier." Now, I'd say that's pretty big,
Right.
but that's how I drew it. And
Hmm.
then I'll show you a more rudimentary drawing in that target. And understand, it wasn't just me; it was another guy, guy named Hartley Trent was one of the other 6,
Hmm.
and he was drawing the submarine as well. And his drawings were worse than mine.
Yeah.
um, at one point, I said, "There's lots of other submarines in here." Well, I don't have the drawing of that now, but you get the idea how
Right.
poor that drawing is. Okay,
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
but it opened up the entire capture of that submarine historically
Yeah. Hmm.
and made all the difference in the world. Now I'm going to show you an intermediate drawing. This is, and I'm showing this one because everybody makes fun of me. I can never get waterfalls. Okay.
Waterfalls. Just
Waterfalls.
lines. Just
If
lines.
you want to hide something from me, put it behind a waterfall. Okay. Well, here's the waterfall remote viewing. It
Oh,
shows a waterfall and below it a bridge of some kind.
right.
Okay.
I see that. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's the actual target.
Oh, yeah.
Now
Right.
you'd
Yeah.
say
It's the
that's a pretty
same.
good drawing, right?
It is. Yeah. 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 I mean,
Okay.
it's the same. The
Now
same
this was a
flow of.
practice target. I was given a set of numbers for it and everything. But was it totally blind? Probably not, because somebody in the room with me probably knew about that waterfall.
Because
Now I'm going to show you.
you perceive moving water, right?
Yeah,
Right.
I'm
And
going
in
to
the
show
picture,
you something.
it's not moving in the real picture.
No,
So
not in
that's
the
why
real picture.
your wiggles are like.
Right. But that could be conclusive. That could be me jumping to a conclusion.
Mhm.
It's hard to say. You got to take all those things into consideration psychologically and otherwise. And
Mhm.
now I'm going to propose to you something.
Yes, please.
In my 35th year as a remote viewer, I want
Okay.
you to tell me if you think I improved when I show you this next target.
Okay.
My targeting material, they asked me if I could track a spy, and I said yes. And my targeting material was the social security number of the spy.
Wow.
That's it. That's the total amount. I was working for, at the time, Stanford Research Institute, and or it might have been SAIC, I'm not sure now, but I was in the lab, and they did not handle this target. Only the specific agency that wanted to know if I could track a spy was handling the target. And they said, all we're going to give you is a social security number. That's all they gave anybody, the lab, anybody. And so I was asked 3 times where this person was. At 3 times, usually in the middle of the night, they'd wake me up and say, tell us where our individual is. With social security number, it could be anyone age 14 to 75. It could be female or male, or male who wants to be a female, or female who wants to be a male. I mean, it could be anything, right?
It could be anything.
Okay. This was the very first time I was awakened and asked. This is the only drawing I drew. Okay. How does that look?
Yeah,
Not bad, huh?
right. The picture on top is like,
And
yeah,
that's a drawing on the bottom.
right.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, I said he was by a certain one of those wind generators parked in a car, and he was. I said it was a rental car, and it was. And I said, everything that about that person, I gave a description and everything else, but I drew only one drawing, that drawing, and that's exactly where he was, parked in a rental car at the bottom of one of those stanchions. And the only reason I got a 99% for it is I didn't tell him the color of the rental car.
Oh.
Okay. Now, 3 times I told him where the guy was by drawing precisely where he was standing. And I did only one drawing each time. That's the improvement of remote viewing displayed right there over 38 years.
Right.
That's why it's a martial art of the mind.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you. So you're a black belt in remote viewing, or more than black belt.
You have to work at it. You have to work at it and work at it, and work at it. And I've done that for almost 50 years. And I have gotten really, really good at it. But here's the difference. Somebody walks in and wants me to teach them remote viewing. They want to do what I just showed you.
Right.
Because they know that's possible, but they don't want to work for it.
Right, exactly.
They want a magic bean, or they want me to take them into a secret place and bless them in some way. It is a hard skill to learn.
Right. Yeah.
And yet there are hundreds of people out teaching it who don't even know what the protocol is. Right. It is scary. And that so frustrates me that it's almost difficult for me to talk about it, because I think it's unfortunate and unnecessary. But that's why I spend so much time in the teaching, trying to help people understand what's required and how it can work. It's just as valuable in the beginning, in that it delivers information that's pertinent. It goes right to the topic. It's even better 35 years later.
Yes.
When you are able to actually produce the basically the replication of the photo.
Yes.
And it's just very interesting to me that something can become that good. And that's part of the display that's in the National Security Agency, one of a kind event. But there's a lot of things like that, and I think if people understood, if they're getting into it, it's just like any other thing. It's like my martial arts with a full contact judo. When I started, I'm still using the same moves, but it's 60 years later, and I can tell you that I'm a lot better with it. That sort of thing. It's because it changes you, it alters you, it makes things automatic. And that's why I say remote viewing is unlearning all your bad habits.
Right.
Once you unlearn them, you replace them with new habits that become better and better and better. And this could be producing more of a gift than anything else. And that's why I teach it. I want people to understand they're better. Human is human. You can become more mature. You can become greater at your endeavors and what you do. If you can use remote viewing, it's even better than that. I think it's important.
It is, yeah. Joe, do you I remember you had an out of body experience at a bar many years ago. Do you think that that unlocked something into your psychic abilities to then do remote viewing a little more more talented way than other people?
Well, one of the things, the whole reason for my out of bodies, they were very spontaneous and would occur, just happen every now and then. They're a direct result of the near death experiences I had. So that combined with the near death experience, coming that close to death and then surviving, and then having to develop some way of understanding why that sort of thing occurs, changes you philosophically. It's like the first time you do a remote viewing and you actually draw what you see later. That moves you entirely into a different bracket because you start thinking differently about what it is to be human. As a human being, we should be striving to become better at being human. That maturity needs to happen. And if we can get there and become better, then 50 years from that, think of what condition we would be in. So this philosophic change, I think, it's absolutely necessary to understand things that we should do, not because we can. I don't know, mature enough to understand the difference. And I just think that I think one of the reasons people will take almost any kind of training to become a remote viewer is they feel that in their gut, that necessity to become better as a human, to become more aware and awake and mature about being human. I think that's what everybody strives for. We just live in a world where there's few examples. It's like, no, let's start a war to distract people.
Well, you know what? To me, what got me interested in remote viewing was specifically saving children. Because a couple of years ago, I had an experience. I went to a place called Rhythmia, and I came to the conclusion that I want to be a beneficial presence to this planet. And that, I don't know why, but that resonated with me, what you did with kids. And that was like the thing I want to, I don't know, for me it was the natural next step to evolve as a soul, to attempt to learn the skills remote viewing, and hopefully someday have the possibility to help other people or kids or the planet,
Yeah.
So,
I think that's a fine goal, and I think that remote viewing will support it. I think almost anything you do uh, to increase your knowledge and your understanding for the right foundations of morality and ethics, I think all those things provide growth in the right direction. And we're all capable of doing that. There are people who see no need for that. I mean, it's like, no, teach me remote viewing so I can make a lot of money. And
Right.
the problem with that is they won't grow philosophically. They could do that. They could probably make more than enough money to live on and survive on and whatnot. But the true gift of it is the changes that it makes in you as a human being. It also teaches, because the ego gets in the way, it teaches humility. It teaches that because you can, you might not want to, or maybe you should not want to. And then there's all kinds of other little ramifications that come out of that. But I'm going to be selfish here and tell you something else. I teach remote viewing because I love people. I love being around people, and I love having an effect on them that's a good one.
Right.
And so I want that to be known too. And some people would say, so there is a greedy part of it. And yet, well, yeah, but it's not about money. It's about what I can do to help people, and that's fun for me.
Well, that also makes you easily lovable, Joe, because people, at least that's the way you made me feel. It's like the love is back and forth, and
Yeah.
I could see that at the Monroe Institute with my classmates and everybody there.
Yeah.
How much they feel the same way towards you.
Mm-hmm.
And I think everything is love based.
Yeah. Well, I care about humans. There's the things about humanity that aren't good don't have to be. They don't have to even exist. They'll always be there, of course, because there'll always be somebody who deals with jealousy or anger or rage or all those
Right.
negativities. But for the most part, everybody else can learn to just walk around it.
Right.
You
And
don't need it in your life. You don't have it in your life. That sort of
exactly.
thing.
And I think it's our responsibility to be creators of love, because if somebody creates hate, like you were saying, evil people, well, we
Yeah.
have the choice to create love,
Right.
and that's a way to make our world a better place. Just
What a better place to be in. And everybody should be happy in the world they're in.
right, 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 exactly. And a question I wanted to ask you about remote viewing, does the remote viewing taps into psychokinesis used in spoon bending, for example, or not really?
Well, spoon bending is not psychokinesis.
Okay.
Psychokinesis is using the mind to move something or affect something that's beyond your physical energy. So whatever you use for a psychokinetic target has to be inside a circle which a human cannot cross. In other words, you have to be 3 meters away from whatever it is you're trying to affect, no matter what it is. And so psychokinesis has nothing to do with spoon bending, because spoon bending, when you bend forks, spoons, knives, whatever it is you're bending, you're holding them in your hand. By holding them in your hand, you're having not only a heat and cold exchange, you're having a fundamental change occurring between you and that spoon. The way I would explain it is, we don't know the energy exchange that takes place between a human and the spoon they're holding in their fingers. So since we don't know the answer to what kind of energy exchange is going on there's no way to explain how it's happening. They have some theories, and one of the theories is that when they make spoons, forks, and knives now, what they do, well, knives are a little more complicated, but you don't see many of them being bent. You see spoons and forks. And what it is, they'll put a sheet of nickel out under a 65-ton press, and that press has got cutters in it, and it comes down and goes whammo, slams down on the sheet and cuts out 50 different forks at one time, all solid nickel. And then they go through a forming machine that presses them into the right form. And maybe they go through a brush that takes all the rough edges off. But that's how they're made. What they think is happening is the fork or the spoon, when they're being held in the hand, gets just enough energy to remember what it actually was before it became a spoon or a fork. So the tines start moving, the bowl starts changing shape and whatnot. So it's trying to go back to that sheet of nickel that it was prior to being cut or stamped out of it, because it's all done with force. Psychokinesis, on the other hand, is when there's something inside a glass bubble that's supported on a sheet of air that has a 3-meter yellow circle around it, where the person sits just outside that circle. It makes whatever the object is in the glass bulb move around with their mind. And nothing else can do that. That's psychokinesis. Now I'm going to tell you the results of 5 years experiments at Stanford and SAIC on psychokinesis. We spent an enormous amount of money over 5 years studying psychokinesis. And I'm going to tell you the exact result. The result was we cannot explain psychokinesis. We cannot demonstrate psychokinesis in the physical world, because there's too many things in the physical world which will cause the reaction on the target, whatever it is, other than the mind. So because we can't shut everything out, we're unable to prove it or disprove it. And that's what the report comes out and says. The report comes out and says, we can neither prove psychokinesis is real, nor can we disprove that it's real. Okay. And if you, and what I say to people, if you want to go out and spend another $1 million on nothing but research on psychokinesis and be able to say the same thing, don't complain to me when you could have done 500,000 remote viewings with it, or found 30,000 missing children or something. No, it was a total waste of time even studying psychokinesis, because there's no answers there. The problem is this. I'll just give you one example. We had a strain gauge in an glass aquarium, completely enclosed, floating on air inside a shielded wire cage in a sealed room with no windows, no air movement, no anything operating in there, and a yellow circle around it. And somebody was sitting there with their mind going, and this strain gauge, which if you touch it or blow on it, it goes, okay. So they're sitting there 9 feet away targeting this, and it suddenly went, and they went, oh my God, I did it. No. 3 months later, what we found was every time a dump truck loaded with a load of gravel hit a plate out on Route 5, blocking, covering a pothole. Every time a truck that heavy hit that pothole, that strain gauge would go. So if somebody happened to be sitting there, they would take credit for having affected it. And that's exactly what happens. And we could not close all the ways that strain gauge would go off. We could not seal everything off,
right,
other than the mind, Right. So there's no way you could say one way or the other. And it just is a fact of life. And there's enough in our world that makes things weird.
Yes.
Yeah. That's what I think is kind of funny. Yeah, we have weird stuff happen all the time.
I know. No, it was very interesting when you said in the class that we still don't know where remote viewing is where the subconscious is tapping the
No,
information
we
from.
don't.
Is that
We
the
we
Akashic records? What is it? We don't have no idea.
we've spent $18 million, factually speaking, $18 million on research. There is 1.8 million years of research on remote viewing that proves beyond a shadow of a doubt it's real. Something's going on. How it goes on, we have no idea. We have no idea how the mind, where the mind gets it from. We don't know how the information is delivered. We don't know whether it's delivered at all, or you go get it. We have no idea.
Right.
You can't prove any of that, but
Hmm.
you can prove it's real, and it
Right.
is real.
Hmm. Oh yeah, I am a
So,
witness of that.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
amazing. I mean, I highly recommend anybody watching this, if you have the chance, do
yeah,
it because it's just a really life-changing, and it's amazing. Is you just see it.
yeah,
Not only you can do it, but the people around you can do it, and
yeah.
it's amazing. It was mind-blowing to me.
Like I
Incredible.
said, artistically, you can be third grade and
Right.
still do something of value, like
Exactly.
draw the outline of a very poorly designed submarine. But if you stick with it over 35 or 40 years, you can like do amazing stuff with it.
Right. Right.
Just incredible.
It is incredible. Joe, I can, we can keep talking for a long time, but I think you need to probably, I don't know how you're feeling, if you need to probably get going.
Yeah, well,
Because-
unfortunately, I don't even know what time it is right now. Let's see. Now I'm going to have to motivate out of here at some point.
Yeah, yeah. So, but
I
I
got,
really, really appreciate your time, Joe. This has been
hey,
incredible.
not a problem.
And
I have a bio I'll send to you that you can use
okay.
for the website. Okay.
Yeah, yeah. Absolutely. Yeah,
Yeah.
I can once when I do the edit, I can show everything.
Super.
And do you have any books in the works right now?
Yeah, I do, but they're not finished. I'm working on them, and I'm working on some other things that I'm not talking about.
Okay,
Like
okay.
I have a whole lot of photographs off of the mapping. That they're mapping Mars, so they have these
Oh,
4x4 negatives. Are really big. They're 4x4 inches. It's like 100 by 100 miles on the surface of Mars, and they're mapping all of Mars with these things, and they all overlap. And I and a partner at JPL, Jet Propulsion Lab, we've been searching these for different things, and I probably have around 60 photographs now that I've taken off of Mars that shouldn't be there.
oh wow.
It's like a mining vehicle, as an example,
Mm-hmm.
sitting parked outside
Wow.
of a cave. Uh,
Wow.
it's in very bad shape, but it's
Mm,
obviously a vehicle. And
right.
then there's my best one though. I have to tell you is middle of nowhere, nothing for 300 miles in all directions. But there's a container sitting in a sand dune next to a big impact crater. And that container is 33 feet long, 15 and a half feet tall, and 12 and a half feet wide.
Wow.
Now,
In
where
Mars.
did that come from?
Right. Right.
Aliens have to move and move their stuff too, I guess.
That's right. Do you
It's
think
like,
this is the year of disclosure or not?
no,
No.
I don't think so. I don't
Okay.
think. Here's the thing, and I think it's the reason why they don't want to talk about it. They don't know any more about UFOs than when they found the first one wrecked.
Right.
It's so advanced. It's so far ahead of us. You can say what's obvious about it, but beyond that, can we replicate it? No. Can we do it ourselves? No. It's just too advanced. They literally grow half their ship. I mean, come on.
Right. Right.
They
Yeah.
put some genes together and they grow half their ship, and then they marry it up to a physical ship. And
hmm
so
hmm It's
we're
incredible.
so far away from that. It's not funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. I know. Well, the
so
robots are gonna probably take over our planet in a year or two.
I'll
So
be nice to your robot.
yes, exactly. Yeah. I know. Yeah, we're gonna be able to lease them. They were
Yeah,
saying for 300 or 400 bucks a month, you can lease a robot. So starting next
right,
year.
right.
So
I don't know. Have you seen some of the robots in China? Oh
I
my
I
God.
have seen the ones in China. They were doing a kung fu
Yeah, yeah,
demonstration, and I
yeah.
was like, wow,
In unison. Yeah.
wow, in unison, and I was
Their
like
agility
jumping
and
and
everything is like incredible.
absolutely incredible. Well, I believe that at one point souls will be able to inhabit those robots at one point.
Yeah. At some point it will be true, I think. It's probably the only way we're ever going to see another star, because
Right,
jumping from star to star I think, has to be instantaneous. It's
right,
even in a UFO doing 6 times the speed of light, it takes too long.
right,
So uh, the only way to see other entities on other planets, on other stars, is to jump instantaneously from one to the other.
right.
Uh, believe it or not, I think we're coming up very close to that. And if we one day make that great leap and figure out how to do it, I think we're going to be knocked back to sticks and stones again, because
That's
we'll
right.
become a direct threat. We'd never go to another star without putting a nuke in the back room. Okay. So
Right.
we'd be a threat again because we're not mature enough.
We're gonna need to start our video game again.
Yeah, right. Exactly.
All right. Well,
It's been really nice talking to you, Ben. I really had a good time.
yeah. Me too.
Thank
Thank
you.
you so much. It's been great. I feel that we can talk. You are one of those people who are so nice, and we can talk for hours.
Uh,
And I remember your 6.5 hours show with the Sean Ryan
John Ryan.
show,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I watched it twice actually. Fascinating. So
Yeah.
I really thank you so much for your time, and I hope to see you again.
Oh, I
And
hope so too. Yeah.
we'll keep in touch here and there.
Yeah.
And if you need anything, let me know.
Of
And
course.
once when I have the interview published, I'll send it to you so you can watch it, or at least
Great.
you have it.
Sometime this afternoon, I'll get that bio out to you so you can use it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We're gonna do a proper intro for Joe McMoneagle, and thank you again for this. This is like amazing.
Oh, you're
Your
welcome.
your
You're very
book
welcome. Yeah.
with your signature and the date. So it's a treasure for me, Joe. So
Good.
thank you so much,
I'm glad.
and
Thank you, Ben.
thank you. God bless you, and we'll stay in touch.
Okay. Take
All right.
care.
Thank
Bye
you.
bye.
Bye bye.